Thank you. All right, welcome to the January 12th Select Board meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us tonight. This meeting is being recorded and it's broadcast on our local cable station. We do have Zoom hybrid capability, so if somebody is online and they have a question, they can put their question in the Q&A with their name and address. And I'm going to ask the select board members to introduce themselves to ensure that we have a quorum. Oh, we'll start with you, Jen. I didn't even see you up there.
Jennifer Stacy.
Jamie Stebbins.
Mark Lamb.
Dottie Fulgenetti.
Craig Barger.
And we have town council and our assistant town administrator and our executive assistant. So the first item on the agenda is a public hearing at 6 o'clock for Gendron's Dreamforce Incorporated, doing business as Shovel Shop Spirits at 282 Washington Street, alleged sale to a minor. So Craig?
The Select Board of Easton as licensing authorities will hold a public hearing in the Colleen A. Corona Boardroom, Easton Town Offices, 136 Elm Street, Easton, Mass., on Monday, January 12, 2026 at 6 p.m. for Gendron's Dreamforce Incorporated, doing business as Shovel Shop Spirits at 282 Washington Street, Easton, Mass., to show cause why the package store all alcohol Section 15 license should not be modified, suspended, or revoked for violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34, sale, delivery, or furnishing alcoholic beverages to persons under 21 years of age, and CMR 204.2052, permitting an illegality on the licensed premise, to wit, sale or delivery to persons less than 21 years of age.
Okay, great. So Craig has opened the hearing, and do you want to mention the stipulation?
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Chair. For the record, Steve Chaplin, Mead, Tallerman, and Costa, Town Council for the Town of Easton. I did have occasion to meet with the president of the licensee prior to the hearing, and the president has signed a stipulation, which is short, and I can read it into the record.
Sure.
So, paragraph 1 states, I, Peter Gendron, of 21, I'm having trouble reading this, it says Meadow Spring, thank you, Road, the president of Gendron's Dreamforce Incorporated, doing business as Shovel Shop Spirits, which we define as the establishment, located at 282 Washington Street, Easton. Paragraph 2, Mr. Gendron is duly authorized to sign the stipulation on behalf of the establishment. Paragraph 3, on November 20th, 2025, a person under the age of 21, retained by the Easton Police Department, entered the establishment. Paragraph 4, the underage person attempted to purchase alcoholic beverages from the establishment. Paragraph 5, the underage persons were allowed to purchase alcoholic beverages by an employee of the establishment. And that stipulation is signed under the pains and penalties of perjury by the president of the licensee. Okay. As such, those facts are established for purposes of this evening's hearing. You have the operative facts stipulated to of the violation, and accordingly you can proceed to hearing from the licensee as to any factors they may believe are in mitigation, and then proceed to your deliberations as to what action, if any, you'll take relative to suspension or revocation of the license.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you want to come up to the table up here.
Madam Chair, would you like the stipulation?
You can give that to Craig, the clerk.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry to see you here tonight.
We got to.
We've been through this before,
Yes.
and it's, when I was growing up, my mother used to say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, and it does. It hurts the board. We don't like to have this situation. I don't know if you had anything that you want to say before we go into the, whatever the penalty is going to be.
I think the most I want to say is we do tons of training with these people. They're all trained. We tell them all the time, the main thing to do, the first thing is safety. Next thing is ID. And I would, and we see them on camera, we watch them, we see them IDing, And I'm discouraged that we got caught by one of our employees not going by like the rules. And we got there in 10 minutes and he said, sorry. I says, you know what's going on. And we fired him right away. And like I said, we do not run our business as selling to minors. It did happen and we are very sorry for it.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
No,
You don't
no.
have to.
We did get what you have his email that he wrote.
Oh, his text?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wasn't paying attention. He failed us, which is exactly what happened.
I'm sure it's disappointing as a business owner when
Yes.
when your staff doesn't do the right thing, but unfortunately, that's the part that really impacts
Yeah.
you because you're going to, have to be closed now, and that obviously impacts your sales. It's really important because this is a college town, and this isn't a matter of a fake ID issue. This is a matter of not even asking
Yeah,
for
that's
the
what
ID.
really
Right,
gets us.
not
So
even doing it.
on your second offense, within this 4-year period, this is your second offense in the 4 years, but there was one before that as well. You did agree we moved the penalty from 3 days to 2 days because you were going to get a card reader. So you really have to stress to them, they have to put everybody's ID in there and check it because it's too big of a risk for you when that doesn't happen. And we understand that, but we have to be consistent with what we've done in other cases. So for a second offense within a 4-year period, we do 6 days as a penalty.
Okay.
And that, the board, do you have any, is there any comments from the board on that or questions?
No, and again, as Dottie mentioned, it's as difficult for us. We don't want to see a business in town go through this, but yeah, it does. It comes down to training, and we know that, hey, people are human too.
Yeah.
I feel for your employee because I'll bet you they never make that mistake again,
Right.
especially when it's a matter of their employment and potentially livelihood. So
Right.
I feel for them. I firmly believe living in a college town, we have to follow the rules and make sure that everyone knows what the consequences are. So it's not so much about you, but all the businesses.
Right.
And,
Mark, any comments, questions?
You captured it well, Jamie. Unfortunate situation. I don't think anybody wanted this. Can see you guys really upset by it. The reason why we have this policy is so there's not a lot of room for exception. We really stick to the policy. I'm sure you're going to talk about it a bit, but how we can break that up, 3 days here, 3 days there, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And we don't want to hurt your business. I absolutely do not want to hurt your business whatsoever. So we want to work with you to make this as least painful as possible.
My colleagues, I think, have covered everything
Okay.
at this point, so.
Jen, did you want to add anything?
Nothing to add. I just appreciate the general sentiment is one of not denying and whatnot. It's more difficult when the vibe is challenging. So I appreciate that.
Something else that I just want to mention is the state also does compliance checks.
Right.
They have operatives, or they, I'm sorry, they don't have operatives, but they will go in and check. And if somebody, I've seen them before where they've used a fake ID and it went in the machine and it still read that it was legit. You got to be very careful because if you get penalized by the state, it's worse than what you're getting with us. So
Monthly updates that you
Yeah.
have to update it. but
Right.
The fakes are ahead of the good guys. The bad
Yeah.
guys are still a little
but
bit.
it might be worth it to give another training to your staff because they take it very seriously. So out of our purview, but I just want to give you
Right,
that,
they
float
just
that
come
to
in
you.
the parking lots and they come in.
Yeah,
the
we've
stores.
seen, they've been in our
They've
parking
been-
lots before.
Yeah.
Like I get the Beverage Journal, I see that a couple of establishments in Easton were caught
Yeah.
by the state, and that's, I think, if you really look at it, we do ID, and it's unfortunate thing that it happened, and believe me, I am so, what do I want to say, discouraged that it happened.
Disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, disappointed because of all the work we put into it. But we do understand that there's consequences that come to us, and kind of the employee gets off, scot-free, and
Yeah.
I don't like that. But it happens.
All right, well,
And
sure.
the ID machine that we do have, it's top of the line. Like Katie said, it's monthly updates. The only thing they can't do on the fake IDs is the barcode.
The barcode
The
doesn't match
barcode.
the front.
So if you put the ID in, everything, age could come up, this, that, but the infrared will ding so that, it will not go through. And,
Okay.
they argue, yeah, it's real, and it's like, sorry, we can't. You know?
Right.
That's
Right.
coming up. That's the only thing that the fake IDs can't get is the infrared.
Yeah, they haven't done that yet.
Yeah. So,
Good.
so we are on top of things, and unfortunately, this happened, and I'm very sorry.
Okay. I'm going to recommend the 6 days because that is the penalty that we've given to others, and we try to be consistent with that. So unfortunately, what I'll have you do is talk to Sean offline, and you can pick the 6 days. It's got to be 3 and 3. You could do all 6, or you could do 3 and 3. It has to be on a day you're open, and
That's every day.
he will confirm that. So,
Okay.
Craig, do you want to make the motion?
So I move that we have the folks Shoveltown Spirits go to work with Sean Dugan regarding the actual 6-day timeframe.
Second.
So that's Bodger and Lamb, and we'll do a roll call vote because Jen's online. Jen?
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes?
Barger, yes.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
I'm gonna, do you want to use this to advance the slides?
Oh, sure.
For, do you want me to bring it up now, or do you want to wait until the proclamation's ready? Okay. Thanks, Steve. Touch about the stipulation letter.
We're just going to give it a
Yes.
minute for movement here.
Sit down, please.
All right, so the next thing that we have on the agenda is an announcement. Our town administrator, Connor Reed, this is his final select board meeting tonight as he moves on to take another opportunity in a different town. He's going to be having farewell office hours on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So we encourage the public or anybody that's worked with Connor before to stop by and say goodbye. Meanwhile, we have a proclamation that I'm going to ask Craig to read.
This is a proclamation honoring Connor Reed, our town administrator, whereas Connor Reed has served the town of Easton with distinction, integrity, and unwavering dedication for 14 years, guiding the community through periods of growth, challenge, and transformation. And whereas under his leadership, Easton strengthened its financial foundation, growing stabilization reserves, improving long-term capital planning, and modernizing municipal operations to ensure transparency, accountability, and fiscal sustainability. And whereas Connor Reed championed regional collaboration, most notably advancing Easton's participation in SEMREC, resulting in more reliable 911 services delivered at a lower annual cost, while positioning the town for future regional efficiencies. And whereas Connor Reed consistently prioritized quality of life for residents, strengthening community engagement, improving municipal services, and supporting initiatives that enhanced Easton's cultural, recreational, and civic landscape. And whereas his steady leadership guided the town through unprecedented challenges, including the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring continuity of operations, clear communication with residents, and compassionate decision-making during uncertain times. And whereas Connor Reed is recognized not only for his professional excellence, but also for his collaborative spirit, calm demeanor under pressure, and genuine commitment to the people who live and work in Easton. Now therefore be it resolved that the Select Board of the Town of Easton does hereby extend its deepest gratitude and appreciation to Connor Reed for his 14 years of exemplary service, and be it further resolved that we commend him for leaving Easton stronger, more resilient, and better prepared for the future. And we wish him every success as he continues his distinguished career in public service. Adopted this 12th day of January 2026, signed by Toddy Fulgenetti, Chair, Mark Lamb, Jamie Stebbins, and Jennifer Stacy, members, Craig Barger, Vice Chair.
And we have an award to give you. So
Where am I going?
come on up to the fireplace.
Better than the woodshed.
Is it official since I'm not there? Because I don't think this can count as his last meeting.
I know.
And I really wish I were there, Connor. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not your fault.
So, in recognition of 14 years of distinguished achievement, exemplary leadership, and unwavering commitment to the Town of Easton, the Select Board extends its deepest gratitude and appreciation to Connor Reed for his dedicated service to our community and the profession 2026. So this is for you. Do you want to come up and we can get a picture?
I'm not used to being the one you're photographing for this, so. Is the board coming up? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. What the heck?
Here, you hold this. Don't drop it. It's glass. Yeah.
Move like a tiny bit over this way so it looks like Jen was meant to be in there.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So smile, Jen, too. All right. Let me actually get behind Connor so I'm not in your picture, too. Okay, great. Thank you.
Excellent. Do you want to say a few words, Connor?
I actually don't have anything prepared.
What?
As I walk to my seat. I'd like to say thank you to the board. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. I was trying to count today, but by my count, I've been in this room for select board meetings more than 400 times in the past 14 years. Many of them with many of you. There's been a lot of consistency on the board, which I've been very grateful for. I'm very fortunate to not have a lot of kind of turnover and turmoil here. That's not something a lot of our colleagues in government can say. I'll leave it at that. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor working here. The staff that are in the room, I've loved working with all of you. You've been a great team. The businesses and residents here have been wonderful to work with as well. And I look back on my time here fondly. I hope if one is to say that I've left Easton better than I found it, I will certainly say that you've all left me better than you found me. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Connor.
Jen, do you want to say anything?
Nothing I can say that the proclamation didn't capture beautifully, but said it before, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, Connor, and I really wish you the best. I'm very jealous of Westwood in this moment, but it's been wonderful working with you. My capacity, 9 years, first on finance committee and then on select board. It's been, your professionalism is just top notch. And one of the things I think that, I hear most often out there is about how accessible you are to the community and how approachable you are. And I think that speaks volumes to the kind of person you are, where you're out there and willing to talk to anybody and have a conversation and listen and bring that to what you do. So just wanted you to know that that's like one of the things I often hear. So looking forward to seeing you do great things in Westwood. But
Thank you, Jen.
Jamie?
Yeah, I would just say, and I think this is one of the biggest compliments over the last couple of weeks as residents come up to me and, oh my gosh, Connor's leaving. And the first thing out of their mouths is how professional and how you handle, especially tough situations. And you've been in a lot of town meetings where a lot of passion, a lot of emotions flying in the room, and you deliver the message that people need to hear in an eloquent and non-emotional way. And people, we appreciate that a lot. And it's also that you're the most prepared person in the room in every meeting you're in. And that says a lot, speaks volumes about your attention to detail, how much you care about not only your work, but the people that you work with. So I think that's an amazing compliment is when people come up to me and say, yeah, we're really going to miss our town administrator and his professionalism, his ability to connect with people who are angry and to lower the temperature in the room. That's fantastic. That's amazing, right? And town meetings are squirrely. I mean, it's amazing. We have a town of 26,000 being legislated by town meeting. It's a lot of different opinions and a lot of chefs in the kitchen. So thanks for all the years of bringing that consistency and that professionalism.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Connor. It has been a pleasure working with you for over a decade. I don't even know where to begin or where to end. What you've done for this community is you've left a legacy of not just the work that you've done, but you've set the bar incredibly high, not just for whoever follows in your footsteps, but for the department heads, and it's our job and this board's job to maintain that. But your professionalism, your preparation, your calmness, I don't think I ever calmed you down. I know you calmed me down a lot, but I don't think I ever had to be like, Connor.
I don't think you did either. That's okay.
But you know, you've always maintained your composure. You've always been prepared. When I was talking with whoever the next person will be, the two things that I'm looking for most, well, I first said, can you just replicate Connor Reed? Can we leave it at that? That can't happen. So I said, a financial wizard and somebody who's incredible with the public and with his department heads as a human being, which are usually two different things. You don't usually find somebody who is financially so intelligent, but also an incredible leader with the board that they work with their department heads, with everybody in between, above and below. You treated everyone like a person, and I will forever be thankful for you.
Thank you, Mark.
Wow. Well, for the 3 or 4 people in town that haven't heard the story before, in 2017, I was elected to this august board for the first time, and it was my privilege with Dottie to be responsible for hiring a new town administrator in April of 2017. We did it in public, and there were people watching us, and I had the privilege of being the 3rd vote to hire you, Connor. As I've said, I don't remember how many times, guys, you probably will know, I have absolutely never, ever regretted that vote. And I've very much appreciated the work that you've done, not only with this town, but with us, with me. I wish you real success in Westwood. They're very fortunate. I'm jealous of them. I'm sure that you'll do great things there like you did here. So thank you, Connor.
Thank you, Craig.
So I've probably worked with you the longest out of everyone on the board. And during that time, I mean, I look back and think, what were we thinking? You were a kid and you took on this huge responsibility. You were so well positioned to do it, but watching you mature through the years, I mean, you got married during that part. You had children during that part. So we've really watched personally and professionally such tremendous growth. Your professionalism is amazing. Your integrity is really the thing that guides you through everything. Even behind closed doors, when we've talked about things in the community or things of frustration, I've never heard Connor be anything but supportive of the board, supportive of the community, and always takes the high road, always has the solution. It's just, it's going to be really hard to find somebody that has all those qualities. I do want to say that I did put together a PowerPoint just showing some of the things that you've done over the period of time here, but I'm going to show that at the end because I don't want to rush through it, and we have a lot of work to do. So if people are watching at home, if you don't watch the whole thing, tune in later, and maybe we can put it online, although nobody's proofread it, so I can't guarantee that it's going to be typo-free. But thank you. So.
Thank you.
All right, so the next thing that we have on the agenda is one-day liquor licenses. So the first one is a private party at Donahue Hall at Stonehill College, 320 Washington Street, January 21st, 2026, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Craig, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the one-day liquor license at Donahue Hall, Stonehill College, 320 Washington Street, January 21st, 2026, from 5 to 10 p.m.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote, starting with you, Jen.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes?
Barger, yes.
Okay. Next, and a police detail is not required for that one. The next one on the agenda is, I'm sorry, I get things moving around here. A 50th anniversary wine tasting fundraiser at Temple Chai Shalom,
Yep.
239 Depot Street, Sanctuary, January 24th, 2026, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Joe Emerson is here to represent the temple.
Hello, come on up. Sure.
Sorry, I forgot to move it back. It's on me.
So Joe is requesting a one-day beer and wine license for a fundraising wine tasting sponsored by Temple Chai Shalom. Did I say it right, Craig? I'm trying so hard.
That's right.
And a police detail is not required. But if you want to tell us a little bit about the event and if it's open to the public.
Yeah, it's a 50th anniversary event. TCS is celebrating their 50th anniversary, which is a great. We have a number of events throughout the year, and this is kind of kicking off this new year. So it's just a one evening event for our members and friends and family. So it's not open to the public per se, but if you know a TCS member, hit them up and try to get an invitation. It's gonna be a great event, food and wine from around the world.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, since Craig is a past president and he was served on the Easton 300th committee, I'm sure he'll have a lot of ideas for you to celebrate your 50th this year.
Sure, he will.
I'm expecting an invite, Greg.
And I just want, we will have a police detail, we are going to have a police detail that the temple has asked of that.
Okay.
So I move to approve, and do you have any questions or comment, other than you want a ticket?
I want a ticket.
50th anniversary wine tasting fundraiser at Temple Chai Shalom, 239 Depot Street in the sanctuary on January 24th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
So that's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote, Jen?
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes?
Barger, yes. Thank you, Joe.
Good
Thank
luck
you very
on your
much.
events.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a transfer of a common victualler license from Asan LLC, doing business as Lindo's Pizza, 447 Turnpike Street, to Royal Pizzeria of Easton, doing business as Royal Pizza, 447 Turnpike Street. We have an application in our package to transfer a common victualler license. As noted, the application's been reviewed by town departments. The owner, Ibrahim Mowad, will be in attendance to answer questions. And that is you, if you want to come up.
You can come to the table. You don't have to stand if you don't want to.
Sure, of course.
Please. Welcome.
Thanks, sir.
Welcome.
So this is an opportunity for you to tell people at home. Everybody's wondering what's going on because I think there's been some construction there or some kind of movement in the parking lot, and people are excited to see what's going to be happening in there.
Yeah,
So
I changed just the ceiling, the old ceiling, because that's very old place. Just clean because all stuff and equipment is old. Right now, we try to clean and put new equipment and everything new.
well, that's
For all
great.
that's my second place. I have one in Norwood. That's gonna be second branch for me. And my first, my best friend Magdi. We're gonna open together that place.
Great.
We're excited to open here in Easton.
Yeah.
That's
So-
great. So traditional pizza and,
That's Greek style.
okay.
It's gonna be a Greek style, yes. Pizza, calzone, subs, that stuff.
Well, the business has a great reputation there, and a lot of people are looking forward to stopping by, I'm sure, so.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
great.
Like you still come ask when you can open. That's question, kind of question.
Okay. So the recommendation is to approve the transfer application contingent on the filing of all required paperwork and final sign-off on the town departments and payment of any outstanding fees. Okay?
Thanks so much.
Craig, do you want to make a motion?
So I move the transfer of common victualler license from Asan LLC doing business as Lindo's Pizza, 447 Turnpike Street, to Royal Pizzeria of Easton doing business as Royal Pizza, 447 Turnpike Street, Easton.
Second.
So that's Bodger and Lamb, roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes?
Barger, yes.
Thank you.
So congratulations
Thank you so
and best
much.
of luck with your new
Thank you.
business.
We look forward
Thank you
to
so
coming
much.
there.
All right, we have another transfer of a common victualler license from AJ 147 Easton LLC, doing business as Aroma Joe's, 507 Foundry Street, to SJB Coffee Partners LLC, doing business as Aroma Joe's Northeastern, 507 Foundry Street. So we do have an application in our packet about this transfer, and it's been reviewed by town departments with no issues. The owner, Sean Brooks, is here to answer any questions, so
How
welcome,
are you?
Sean.
Do you want to sit down too, so you can both be at the mic?
Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Sean Brooks, my wife Jill.
Excellent. Hi, Jim.
Nice to meet you guys.
So you're taking over the business?
We are, yes.
That's exciting.
Yes. We own the one in Rainham.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
This is, a lot of people watch our meetings, believe it or not. So this is
Already?
your
Awesome.
opportunity to tell the public about, introduce yourself and just tell them about what you plan to do there, or if any changes or not.
So basically, just gonna try to get into the, excuse me, get into the community.
We offer iced coffees, energy drinks. We have all kinds of flavor combinations you can add to them, iced teas, smoothies, so all kinds of stuff that I think would be welcomed in Easton. And I just think maybe people don't know what it is. So
Yeah, the brand's not very
right.
big yet around
It's up
here.
and coming.
It's up and coming.
It'll stay Aroma Joe's, I see, right?
Yes.
It is.
So-
It's
Yep.
gonna stay around.
And you still have breakfast sandwiches and things
Correct.
like that.
breakfast sandwiches,
pastries.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
What are your hours?
So it's 5 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
Monday through Saturday, and Sunday is 6 to 8.
Great. Do you have any questions, Craig?
No, not at all.
And you do have a drive-through, but you also have a really beautiful sitting area inside, and it's a great place for a lot of people, business people, or somebody that just wants to go and have a quick meeting. You have nice, comfortable chairs, and it's a really very inviting atmosphere, and the staff that I've interacted with have been exceptional, really seem like they enjoy their job, very helpful, so I would definitely recommend that people go there.
Thank you. And we're gonna make it a little bit more welcoming when you come in.
Good.
Great.
Add some extra touches, and like we do, we decorate a lot in Raynham, and people like it. They feel like it's at home, and
Sure.
so we're gonna do the same thing there and
Personalize it.
personalize it. Yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent.
All right, Craig?
Sure. So I move to approve the transfer of the common victualler license from AJ 147 Easton LLC doing business Aroma Joe's, 507 Foundry Street, to SJB Coffee Partners LLC doing business as Aroma Joe's of Northeastern, 507 Foundry Street.
And this is also contingent on filing all required paperwork and payment of any fees.
Second.
So that's Bodger and Lamb, roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes?
Barger, yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Look forward
Thank you
to,
very much.
seeing you.
Easton.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next we have discussion and vote on the Town Administrator Screening Committee composition update and timeline. So I'm somewhat leading this up, and let me see what I have here. Hold on one second. So here's the timeline. I have all kinds of notes here. So the first thing is the screening committee charge. So as people might know, we're working with a consultant who's helping us guide us through this process. And he has helped us come up with the charge. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the composition and the schedule. So the Town Administrator Screening Committee is responsible for presenting the names of 3 to 4 individuals who should be considered finalists to the Easton Select Board for consideration as appointment as the Town Administrator of Easton. So if people don't know, the Select Board is the hiring authority for the Town Administrator. The screening committee members will use their best judgment and understanding the criteria for the selection of the Town Administrator that's outlined in the position statement. The position statement went out last week. It's online, and it's being shared widely. It's basically the summary of Easton and what we're looking for as a board. The town's recruitment consultant, it was prepared by the town's recruitment consultant with input and information of the select board and other town officials. And that's going to be what's utilized in conducting the outreach to solicit candidates for the position. The screening committee will work collaboratively with the town's recruitment consultant in executing their responsibilities. So we're looking at 2 meetings. The screening committee's work will include meeting 1 is going to be in person. The expected time is about 2 hours. And the first thing they'll do is choose a chairperson and a clerk, and then meet with the town's recruitment consultant to discuss the approved position statement, review the process of interviews, discuss questions as prepared by the recruitment consultant and possible additional questions, and set interview dates. They're going to receive and review the resumes of applicants as presented by the recruitment consultant and select 5 to 7 applicants as semifinalists. Meeting 2 is an in-person, and it's expected to be a full day, 7 to 8 hours. It's going to be conducting interviews of the selected semifinalist candidates utilizing established questions with guidance from the town's recruitment consultant. We'll be comparing experience, qualifications, and interview performance of candidates to identify and choose up to 4 unranked finalists for presentation to the select board, contingent upon a satisfactory reference and background review by the recruitment consultant. Meeting 3, if needed, is expected to be an hour, and that would be to meet with the recruitment consultant, if needed, to review any negative issues related to the outcome of the reference and the background checks, which we don't anticipate. But we do take that into consideration. The chairperson and the recruitment consultant meet with the select board to present the names, resumes, and reference feedback for finalists for consideration. It's anticipated that the work of the screening committee will be completed within 4 weeks of the first meeting as called by the town's recruitment consultant. The committee shall function as a governing body of the town defined in the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law and utilize the provisions of said law pertaining to executive session in order to act in the best interests of the town. What that means is when people are applying for this job, it's pretty often that there are other town administrators in other towns. The screening committee has to have a lot of discretion and confidentiality, because if somebody is not going to be one of the finalists, they're not going to want their town to know that they're interviewing here, essentially. So we are looking for that type of open meeting law provision, and that's why the executive session will be called on that. To the extent permitted by law, the screening committee shall maintain the names and information about the candidates in strict confidence until it votes its recommendations. Names and information pertaining to candidates not chosen as finalists will be retained as confidential. So, anybody have any questions on that so far? It's pretty straightforward. So the timeline on this is draft a position statement, completed and distributed to the board. We did that on Friday, January 2nd, and worked through the holidays. And I want to thank everybody who did take the time to meet with the consultant, talk with them through that very busy holiday period, to be able to provide their input on what are we looking for, what are the priorities that we're, and the skill set that we're looking for. Those comments were provided back, and they met with the board on January 5th to get the formal approval. The position was advertised and posted on January 6th with active recruitment during January. Let me see. And it's been shared widely through the consultants' networks and also on social media, LinkedIn, places like that. The deadline for applications is January 30th. Candidate materials will be sent to the screening committee by February 1st. The screening committee will meet and discuss applicants potentially on February 3rd or 4th in order to choose the 5 to 7 for interviews with the committee. And this meeting usually lasts about anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. The interviews by the screening committee could be on February 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th, or 18th, and the consultant has a preference, but there are some dates. We will have to, that's going to be a heavy lift, getting a full day for a 9-member committee to meet. So we have some flexibility there. The target date for finalist names and information to the board is March 2nd, with interviews during the week of March 9th and board selection on March 16th. So this is, where time is of the essence on this, and we're going to be moving quickly. And let me see. I thought I had put this on here. Let me just look somewhere else, because what I wanted to recommend to the board is for the composition of the 9 members. Hold on a second. So we think it's important, especially because time is of the essence here. I would like to recommend that we have certain positions represented on this committee. And it's really important. I feel like the last time I was involved with this, there were people that really didn't understand the function of what a town administrator did. And to me, it's very important that it's somebody that knows what they do and also has interacted with a town administrator. So what I would propose is that I would be on it as chair of the select board, and then we have representatives from the Board of Health, FinCom, Planning and Zoning, ZBA, School Committee, and Wendy Nightingale as the finance director, because it came back pretty unanimous that one of the most important strengths that we're concerned about is somebody with real financial skills. So it's important to have, sorry, Wendy, to add you to another meeting, but I think that is really important. And then we also wanted to have the representative from the Republican Town Committee and the Democratic Town Committee. They both have a lot of experience with municipal government and bring different perspectives. We're not looking to put this committee together of people that are all going to come in and have the same viewpoint. We really do, just like with PACE, we want people with different perspectives and different viewpoints. So that's the composition that I'm recommending, and I wanted to get your feedback, and if that is in agreement, we can make a motion and get that moving.
That's all 9?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
For the Democratic and Republican town committees, is it the chairs of those
Yes.
boards?
Do we know if the chairs of those committees are wanting to do this?
Well, Craig is the chair of the Democratic Town Committee, so do you want to do it, Craig?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I did float it by, I had a conversation with Patty Locke, who is the chair of the Republican Town Committee, and she said that she would be interested as well, so.
Okay.
I think procedurally, not to get in front of the board, what Dottie's looking for is confirmation that compositionally you're okay with that. You're not voting to appoint anyone right now. And then the board would, I think, as a formality, vote appointments at the 26th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where between those 2 weeks, I assume the board and the consultant would confirm with members of those committees that they will serve before you vote it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We try not to vote people into positions that they
You've been
haven't
voluntold.
volunteered for. Do you have any comments or questions, Jen?
No, it feels like a very comprehensive swath of representation, bringing in a lot of different perspectives. So I'm comfortable with the list. I think that's great.
Excellent. Anybody here? Okay. All right, Craig, if you want to move to accept the proposal that I gave for the screening commission composition.
I move to approve the Town Administrative Screening Committee composition, updates, and timeline as indicated by Chair Fulgenetti.
Second.
So that's Bodger and Lamb. Up to you, Jen.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Fulgenetti, yes?
Barger, yes.
All right, terrific. So the chairs of those committees will be anxiously waiting a phone call from me. All right, next we have discussion and possible vote for a possible termination of Easton curbside trash and recycling program for fiscal '27. So we have Director David Field and Finance Director Wendy Nightingale.
Directors, take their seats. Just a recap for the board and anyone hearing this for the first time. One of the things that we do as routine business here is maintain currently a contract with a waste hauler to provide curbside waste and recycling pickup. It is a service that is overseen and managed by Public Works with administrative assistance from the Finance Department. However, unlike many services we provide, it's not mandatory that the town provide it. In light of the financial challenges we're facing after the override failed, the indirect pressure that this service puts on the department, as well as the kind of extraordinary cost escalation that we're seeing in solid waste, Director Field and Nightingale and I felt it was appropriate to bring to the board as the contracting authority for curbside pickup, a forecast that basically maintaining the status quo of the program we have today would require a 30% fee increase by the town, without necessarily solving those operating impacts that Public Works is feeling and that our finance departments are feeling, both of whom have had staff cuts. We've had 2 meetings to discuss that, one in September, I believe, one in December. At the December meeting, we laid out that basically there's 3 options, which is substantially increase the fees municipally to sustain the existing level of service, reduce the program's level of service and still increase the fee if we maintain the program, or discontinue the program municipally and allow residents to privately contract with waste haulers, as some communities around here do, in fact do. The board voted to request staff gather more information of what, without saying we were doing it, to ask the staff to get some more information from our waste hauler, from legal counsel, finance, of what would that actually look like, what would a transition plan look like. We don't have, there's not a clear written step-by-step guide for this, but there's enough information that we feel we can advance the conversation and hopefully reach a decision point with the board tonight. So I'll turn it over to Dave and Wendy. Dave, you want to kind of brief the select board on the discussions with waste management? What's the difference if they run it versus we're involved? What does that look like for them, for pricing, for your staff? Please.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. So last time we were here, we were asked to approach waste management and find out what the approximate cost would be. We don't have exact costs until we come up with a contract. We're in negotiations, in discussions with our town council and waste management right now. I met with waste management and they're very excited to take on our customers as private customers. They've indicated that they would be looking in the range of $120 a quarter, maintaining our level of service of weekly trash and recycling pickup. There would be changes to the program, no question. The bulk sweeps would go away, things like that. But as long as we could basically come to an agreement with them where we could basically hand over our customers to them and provide them with the information we have, they would be able to do that $120 range. So now we need to work with council to see what we need to do to make that agreement come to fruition.
So that's a complete transfer. You wouldn't be doing any administrative work, or people wouldn't be calling you if they had questions?
Yeah, so I imagine there'll be a slight transition because we're still going to get calls. Even, there'll be an outreach portion of this that waste management would volunteer to pay for. A lot of mailers, things like that, to let people know about the program. Waste management would volunteer to handle those costs. So I imagine we'll still get calls, but again, it would be more of a referral program where we refer them to the town's website, to licensed haulers, including waste management as our kind of preferred vendor, so to speak.
Okay.
But from a setting, it sounds like, Dave, you're saying in a transition period, people would call because of habit, but
Yes.
that over time, it would not be the administrative responsibility of the one admin at Public Works who handles this, nor of the billing staff to send and collect the bills. Would that be done through waste management directly?
Exactly. So waste management would basically be handling people's signups, doing the billing. So that would eliminate 100% of the administrative time on billing. It would eliminate the collector's office needing to collect and process those bills.
And hire
and
staff
it would
on
eliminate
barrel
highway
pickups,
from doing
repairs.
hundreds of barrel drops that we do currently. So.
And so would people have to sign up, or would it be, if you're already a town waste management customer, would it just transition over and you'd opt out of it?
Exactly. So that's the goal. Waste management would like if we came up with this agreement, that the default would be them. So we would just hand over the existing equipment at the houses would stay, and it would just now be 100% managed by Waste Management. I assume that there's going to be provisions that if a person doesn't want to stay with Waste Management, they can opt out. And we don't know how long that cost will stay at that rate, but we'll try to come through the agreement, what that minimum term is of this is the rate that's being offered initially, and hopefully they can hold that as long as possible. So, but after that, it will be 100% private hauler, and DPW will only be involved in disposal for our buildings now, our hazardous waste day, things like that.
Okay. So essentially, it's kind of like what we have now. So if you're contracted with Waste Management through the town and you want to change to a different hauler, you're not locked in. You can just do that. You just have to let the town know. So it'll be the same with them.
Exactly. So the only thing we do is that, we're the ones who take the calls, send out the bills. That'll just be a step that is now done by Waste Management, and, the town will be out of that game.
Okay.
And we've discussed it at prior meetings. I'm sure the board will bring it up as well, and I'm not trying to advocate against Public Works. I think that given the strain on our operations, this is something the board needs to seriously consider. A reality, though, and Director Field did just reference it, is that functionally the town's role here, we're not the ones who are picking the trash up and hauling it. We do the customer service, we do the billing, we do the repairs, but also we act as price negotiators. So if it's us, we expect the fee to be at least $130 a quarter. That would have to escalate over time. But when we have a contract, it's locked in for a period of time. That's something that Direct Field and Council and perhaps Chair Fulton can see if there's a certain amount of commitment from Waste Management. But after that, the town is not involved. And so, for better and for worse. So we certainly can't represent the public. 120 will stay there. It's better than going to 130, but then after that, it's a private business.
Right. Jen, do you have any comments, questions?
No, thank you for providing the extra detail. I know we had asked for some extra information, and this is really helpful to hear what a potential plan looks like. So thank you.
Jamie?
Yeah, so I'm going to read, this is from the 2030 Solid Waste Master Plan, which is dated October 2021. And obviously the state's goals are to, by 2050, get to be a zero landfill state, which we all know are massive challenges to that, from everything from packaging to our consumerism and how we consume. But I'm just going to read this paragraph. So waste and materials management in Massachusetts has changed dramatically since 2010. Changes in global recycling markets have led to tight recycling capacity, depressed prices, and increased recycling costs in the Commonwealth. The closure of a large glass processor in Massachusetts has further stressed these markets. Solid waste disposal capacity in Massachusetts and throughout the Northeast has continued to shrink as more landfills close and are not replaced by new in-state regional disposal capacity. This tightening of disposal capacity has weakened the resiliency of Massachusetts waste disposal infrastructure, and facility outages that were routine in the past are causing frequent operational challenges. So we know that this infrastructure is essentially gone in the state, and we need to go by rail, and that creates a bunch of additional challenges and potential disruptions to us getting solid waste out of the state. And so my concern, it doesn't make me feel warm to hear that Waste Management's excited to take us on, because I think today we have over 5,000 households that work through the town and are part of this, what I like to consider it's a bargaining. It is a bargaining group. And we're going to lose that. So I looked up the cost of some of the other, because we don't have this. The other problem is it's a little bit of a monopoly here because we don't have a lot of other haulers that we can turn to for our community. But one we see in town is Republic Services, and right now they advertise $59.14 per month, which is about $709.68 per year. Kearney, which I'm not 100% sure is available to us, but showing the same price that Waste Management said, which is about $480 per year or $40 per month, which is what the $120 per quarter comes to with Waste Management if we go direct with them. So I think while that's a great way to reel us all in at the 120.
Yeah.
And I would agree that now when we all have to go and negotiate with them, that 120 could jump quickly over the 130. So what I'm still proposing, I don't know if it's 130, but I'm proposing we increase, maybe call it the minimum 130, but I'd be willing to even increase it beyond that to be able to continue to do this as a town. And one of my other fears that I've shared with everybody is that this will lead to illegal dumping. Not because people want to illegally dump, but because the alternative may be they can't afford to get rid of their refuse and they're going to look for other ways. And I live in a street today, Morse Road, which only has 3 homes, now 4 homes on it, but it's been dumped on for a long time because you can pull onto that road. There's a cemetery and there's ditches that go off into water, runoff. So some of the worst places you could possibly be dumping, but we see a lot of waste get put, whether it's things that people can't throw away in some instances, which is, I think the hazardous waste removal days have really helped to alleviate that, from tires to air conditioners to, you name it, refrigerant, whether it's a dehumidifier or something that might utilize a refrigerant. So all these things that for years we've been pulling out that get dumped in the middle of the night, I've seen that get better over the 16 years I've lived there. But I fear that if we lose this function as a community, as difficult as it is, and I do appreciate the hard work that DPW and the town administration does to service and coordinate this program for us, but there's just so many other, I think, benefits that we reap as a community that we'll lose when we move away from a contract like this and we leave it to an organization to negotiate with us individually.
Mark?
I share similar sentiments. It's the bargaining power. I'll cut to the chase, but I understand your resources are very thin. So it's a difficult decision. Let me ask you, if you were to go to Waste Management and say, hey, listen, if you lock Easton in for 5 years, we'll give it to you. Is that even something that could happen?
I can ask. I don't know. I don't know what the prospects of that would be.
You see what I'm trying to do is maintain that bargaining power, but for a extended period of time.
Do you mean lock in at $120?
Yeah. It's not going to go down.
But this function, I'm not going to speak for Waste Management, but we haven't even been able to keep our prices steady for more than 2 years at a time. So
it'd be great. Well, they're the ones who control it. You know what I mean? It's through them. So it would be. I think it would be worth a question of, because if you turn this over and they say to you $120 for a quarter, that's only for 1 year, right?
We don't know for what duration.
We don't know the price term at this point.
We would try to work out a transition agreement, but after that, the town is no longer managing the program.
Understood.
Yep.
That's what I'm trying. And without that, we lose that bargaining power.
But
Correct.
even with that bargaining power, with the town having the customers, it was only for 2 years at a time, and it was going up unpredictably, and we absorbed the increase. Mm-hmm. So we weren't raising the prices, even though our price fluctuated. So I don't know
I would
that
point
they
to it
do
would
better
be even
than
worse.
that. It could be.
We incurred that with the bargaining power.
Right.
I can't imagine what it would be without that.
I agree, and all indicators are that it is going to continue to go up wildly. Mm-hmm. And so I agree. I would hate to leave that group that we have now, because a lot of homes have come on board since this program started. We've been with Waste Management since what year?
2009.
2009, and we've seen,
We've seen an increase, but again, we don't have everyone. So we still have about 2,000
that are not
households that are private haulers. And we see a lot of fluctuation. People will call us to join our system, and we'll sign them up, and then they'll call us and cancel it. Say, oh no, they gave me a better rate, my existing hauler or someone else. So I just also want to point out towns of Norton and Foxborough are our neighbors, also a completely 100% private hauler. And I don't think they've had any really ill effects with their programs. They've been in place for numbers of years. We do have illegal dumping now. And illegal dumping is primarily related to the bulk pickup, which is, it's free for certain people, people on our system, but it's difficult sometimes for people to sign up for it, and so we do see illegal dumping already. I don't think that'll change. Any community will see that. But the key point here is we're administering a program that is provided 100% in the field by Waste Management, but we have no really ramifications or ability to influence how they prosecute that. And unfortunately, it's getting worse on our end with breakdowns, with new drivers, things like that. We get a number of calls every day. I think it's happened last week. I think we had routes that didn't finish every single day. These are complications that really overload the DPW and our billing ability. So again, there was 3 options where we recommended either pretty massive price increase, reduce our services, or do away with the program because it's not a core function of DPW. And it's the only function that if we let it happen with a private concern, they don't actually have to pay prevailing wage. So that it's not a public work. Picking up trash is not a public work. Everything else, if we try to privatize, we'd have to pay prevailing wage and things like that. So this is the one service that, especially with our lean budgets, our lack of staff availability, our lack of ability to put a crew together to install drainage before a paving project because we have too many competing needs, including our trash and recycling program. Hundreds of barrel drops in repairs, then to be done on a weekly basis. So that's really the impetus here. So obviously the board's going to make the policy decision on what we do, but I think we've presented the reasons why. As far as I completely understand a bargaining group, but the cuts that have happened to DPW, I think, transcend us being a bargaining group in providing that service. We just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah, so I'll just say I'm in favor of raising the rates, and I think again, maybe it's got to be higher than 130 because I think what's going to happen is more people are going to try to leave, and they might leave for a little while, and as everyone's rates go up, it's going to happen across the board, given every hauler is going to deal with the same thing, nowhere to go with this. So I'd rather have them come back, and even as we're going up, you can see Republic is already almost twice as expensive as this. So not much of a hurdle for Kearney and Waste Management to follow suit. And I really do, Dave, I feel for you as well, but that's why I'm saying we got to raise the rates then. And I know too, you'll say, well, that's not where the money would go. If we necessarily increase the rate more than 130, you've got needs that are higher priority than to go into this program. But if it's, number one, we should never be in the red on it. So every year it should escalate so that's always in the black, not only covering the cost of the DPW time, but also covering the administrative work that's being going into it too. So I'm all about increasing the cost. And look, a lot of people will probably leave based on that, but everybody's going to be dealing with this issue for the foreseeable future until we stop creating so much to go into a landfill, right?
Craig?
Well, you and Mark make some very compelling arguments, but one of the questions I have, David, if we were to raise the rate as Jamie is recommending, how much higher would it have to be in order to be able to cover the costs, your costs?
So basically our administrative assistant is 100% trash, and that's not captured in the current budget right now. So you'd have to fund a full administrative position, which is doable. We could do that, and you'd have to fund a full highway division person to deal with the day-to-day, and I have to hire a new person because we just don't have the staff.
Do we roughly know what that number would be for those two? Because now you are dividing that out over the 5,200 households.
Around 150,000 when you look at benefits and salary, things like that.
But and then you just divide that across, right? The current,
Yeah, I think we'd be looking at the 135 to
Sounds to me like it would be more than that.
Yeah, it's,
But also, those rates change during the contract period, so if they move them up again, we have been in the red,
Well,
so
I
to
mean,
speak.
we have retained earnings. We can't
Right.
really go fully into.
No,
I don't
but
want
I
anyone
mean-
listening to us think we're not paying the bills.
No,
We-
but when
we
I
are.
say it, I mean that sometimes the billings don't cover the costs of the service. So that's what I mean when I say in the red.
That's why I agree.
Right.
You'll
So
lock in
we
for
lose
whether
money
it's
a lot
year or
on
2
this.
years, but then we'd have to escalate based on what the next contract is, right? Like what this contract is. While they, in good faith, might tell us 135, is that roughly where you're coming up with, Wendy?
Well, to be clear, they don't tell us what the quarterly rate has to be at all. They tell us what the
Right.
unit costs, labor costs, things like that are, and then we calculate it ourselves.
set the rate.
And we collectively set the rate, looking at the volume they're doing, an estimation on contamination, on a recycling index, and things like that.
Right. The recycling is definitely one of those areas where you never know from month to month how much it's going to be. At one point, years ago, I mean, we were actually making money on recycling, and now we have to pay between $12,000 and $14,000 a month to get rid of our recyclables.
Right.
So it's definitely gone up. I mean, you're probably looking at about another $10 a quarter.
So 140 approximately.
Is that
But
what
does
you
that-
say?
I mean,
Take the
if
130
that's
that-
the direction the board is going, we can get you a fine point analysis on that. I just would caution the board to keep in mind the other fees you were considering, like stormwater and things of that nature, and the knock-on impacts of you raising a fee by that magnitude.
Right.
Yeah. I'm in favor of that only because I know what the future, it's well painted here, what's going to happen. And the costs are not going to go anywhere but high for everybody. It's just a matter of, it's a reality. Because it's not just the Northeast and New England that are running out of space to put refuse, right? Solid waste is a problem everywhere.
Correct.
And where we've been sending it via rail, it's a problem. And so they're going to charge more. What do you do? When you don't want to take anymore, you charge an exorbitant amount.
What makes you think that if we raised our rates or Waste Management raised their rates, what makes you think that people won't cancel their service if that's the argument?
I think some will leave, just as they do today. They'll go shop out. They might get a better price, and for how long? Who knows? What's the contract going to be when we each try to negotiate with Waste Management? I don't think they're going to give us 1-2 year contracts. They're going to say it's month to month, and then if they decide to raise their rate in 6 months, then it goes up, and then those people will at least have somewhere to come back to. So I don't disagree that 140 will make people jump, but then in a couple of years, if we maintain this, I envision we're still going to make out better like this with our rates going up versus what you're going to be dealing with for escalation of rates, trying to negotiate by yourself.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge what you're saying. I strongly disagree with it. I really think that we heard from the public that they don't want higher fees. And if we have to fight for a fee, I'm going to fight for the stormwater fee, not the trash fee, because there's a solution to that doesn't tax our infrastructure, our team. And, to take two people, we're getting grief no matter what gets moved or raised, right? That's not the hill I want to die on, is the trash fees, because I think that people can have a choice and then it's up to them. We don't have the capacity or the staff to do this in a reasonable way. If we have the staff to take a highway person off to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. At 140, you do today. It doesn't mean it doesn't change for the next contract negotiation period when they go up. And then it might be 150, and then it might be 160, right? So, and again, I know we can respectfully agree to disagree, and that's where I would rather keep this group of 5,200 households, and some will leave. You're absolutely right, until the grass isn't greener on the other side. And it would have to cover those positions, Dottie. I agree. You would have to raise it enough. And then if people absolutely didn't want it at that point, then it collapses on itself, right? If people are all just bailing out, okay, then they're making that decision too, right? If they all decide they're going to leave and go direct or go with other companies, then it collapses on itself.
So if we have to raise the fees, it's going to be much higher than what Waste Management, what they could get on their own. I think that's going to collapse it now anyway.
Good. All right. And you know what? I find it really convenient that they come in under what we're proposing, right? And it's a great way to get us all to make this move. And then in a year from now, I have much more faith in our group than I do in a private hauler.
Just on the Republic, they don't provide the same level of service. They don't pick up recycling every week. It's every other week.
And they charge this.
And that's
amount,
correct. That's
right?
correct.
Almost double what
Yeah.
Waste Management does today. So just keep in mind, that's where it's going. And, you know, less service, higher price.
Can we ask how long we'll be locked in for 120 if they?
So we can ask anything, and I'm not trying to be obtuse. I think the thing that, especially as I'm on my way out the door, selfishly, that Dave and Wendy and Sean need is clarity from the board on what the direction is.
Yeah, I know.
It's either bring back a final proposal on raising the fees that you would have to do an extension, or it's go down the path of spin the program off. But I can't ask them to be going in both directions at once while we're going through replacing my job. So I don't think, I respect and appreciate where you're coming, but there's not, I don't think there's going to be like a get this and come back that's going to make this a clean choice. This is an ugly and hard choice no matter what. And the reality is that once we're out of it, we're kind of out of it. You know, so I wouldn't want to represent to the board or the public that if we did a transition that we somehow could keep kind of contractual tendrils a year, 2, 3 years down the road. I think the important question for the board to be considering from a policy and operations standpoint isn't 120 versus 130 versus 140. It's the ability of the departments to do the jobs, right? The pricing, Jamie is right. Pricing is going to go up no matter what. This is a losing fight, no matter who's fighting it. This is if you look at the CPIW chart for waste disposal services, it's a vertical line going up, and it doesn't show any sign of stopping. But this is not a section of work that we are currently doing. It's one of very few that we don't have to, that we have any hope of successfully mitigating price. So it's really, in my view, a kind of an operating question. But I think we'd really like to know from the board tonight which direction we go. We'll get a final thing ready for you in either scenario.
Well, why don't we just do like a straw poll? I will say that there's no scenario that I can see, because I'm not looking at it from the finance part. I'm looking at it from the people part and the impact to the, so I am definitely for privatizing it. What about you, Craig?
Yeah, I hear what you guys are saying, and you're very eloquent in what you presented, Jamie. But I just think that the costs to us in terms of time and it just makes more sense to go to a private hauler.
What about you, Jen?
I'm in a weird spot where I believe and agree with everything Jamie said. But that being said, from a practical standpoint, it comes down to I can't agree to something that's going to continue to put a strain on the DPW, regardless of where we stand when it's a potential override. And, we're resource constrained no matter what. And I don't see a path to that getting better. So big picture, this is a problem, but I think making sure our roads are maintained and some of the core functions of the DPW are more critical to ensure aren't compromised. So I would probably lean toward privatization. Not happy about it, though.
I feel the same way. Not happy about it. The resources, you guys you're so spread thin. We're in a tough position, and our departments really need to focus on their core business. And I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
You all stated it right. This puts us in a really hard position because the right thing to do is not necessarily the thing that we can do. You know what I mean?
We don't have the leverage to do it.
Right.
I cannot add more strain to your department. I can't.
That's
So,
it.
I don't get a vote. You looking at me?
It's a very difficult decision, there's no question about it. And what Jamie is saying is very accurate, and very thoughtful. But I think your priorities have got to be, you know, the functions of DPW, not some extraneous kinds of things where you're chasing people and you know, I just think it's got to be privatization. And I wish we could control that, but once we say private, we can't control what their prices are. They could go up.
I think where the board is, the concerns are, you can certainly give us a list of primary concerns that we can take with Dottie and see to the extent under procurement and every other, you know, provision of applicable law, what can be agreed upon, but without it collapsing on itself, and do the best we possibly can. Because we don't want to, none of us come to work to spin services off, right? So it's not as if this is something that we're taking lightly either, if that's where the board goes. But if that's obviously judging from the straw poll, a majority leaning that direction, if there are particular items as far as what the duration is, what, you know, and other areas of concern, if you want to give them to us, we'll write them down, and you could have Dottie be your rep for actually negotiating the particulars with Dave and legal counsel and Sean. Okay.
all right, so do you want to make that a vote that, how would we word that?
Well, I guess before you were to motion, Dottie, I would ask the board, outside of the duration of transitional pricing and outreach and notification to the public, or are there any other specific particular concerns that you would want to make sure that, to the extent we can, we memorialize if we go this route? Dave, did I hear correctly? We would still do household hazardous waste?
Yeah, household hazardous waste is a
Okay. So
water
we would
division
still have that
item that
annual-
we'll do. We'll obviously manage our own dumpsters for our own buildings.
Any other things?
Okay. So, Sean, you have those two major items as far as the duration and the outreach,
Yep.
and of course the ability that, for my sake, I think is important to confirm, much like with aggregation, that it's a no penalty opt out, right? I believe that discussion's already been had with Public Works and Waste Management. We would want to affirm that in writing, that residents, if they said, well, I don't feel comfortable staying in this, if the town's not managing it, I want to leave, that they don't get penalized.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not an easy decision.
So if that's the case, I would suggest the board consider a motion to authorize the privatization of a curbside pickup at the end of the current contract period, which is June 30th, with the necessary legal instruments to be finalized by town council and executed by the chair of the select board in consultation of the director of public works and the interim town administrator.
So moved, Barger.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, no.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Barger, yes.
Thank you. Sean, I feel bad those people left. I don't know what they were here
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
If they're still out there, can we bring them in and?
Sure.
Were they perhaps looking for Board of Health was also happening in the building?
Oh, maybe. They were leaving?
I got a contract.
Because,
Okay.
oh, okay. All right, thank you. The next, and I just want to say, Jamie, we usually can achieve consensus, and I really have a lot of respect for you for sticking up for your convictions, and we'll do everything we can to honor that too.
Yes,
So-
and I appreciate, obviously, the professionalism. You guys, everyone's heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
So I super appreciate that. Even with a dissenting vote, I respect your guys' decisions as well, and it's in the right, it's both are, it's a tough decision to make, so both are in the right place, so thank you.
All right, the next item we have is contract award DPW 2026-13 Colonial Municipal Group contract for a Ford F550 cab and chassis.
Yes, this is a cabin chassis, part of a purchase of our new truck 123 from the water division. This is the first contract, which is $58,151.20. And it'll be followed by another contract shortly for the upfitting of that cabin chassis.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Craig, you want to?
Move to award the contract DPW 2026-13 with Colonial Municipal Group contract for Ford F-550 cab and chassis in the amount of $58,151.20.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Barger, yes.
Terrific. Item 9, discussion and vote Fontaine Brothers Incorporated,
you,
contract
Dave.
change
Thanks,
order number 4, Public Safety Buildings Project.
Everybody,
Hey, welcome.
Hey.
good to see you all again.
Away by the time we get out.
Likewise.
So under the process established by the Municipal Building Committee and approved by the Town of Easton Select Board, the Technical Review Committee has reviewed and is recommending approval of a change order number 4 for the Easton Police, Fire, and Public Works Facilities Project. Additionally, PMA and KBA have independently reviewed each cost component and are recommending approval at this time. Change order number 4 is in the amount of $31,235. As of January 5th, 2026, with the exception of change order number 4, 48.4% of the contract time has elapsed. 2.3% of owner contingency will have been expended, and 95.4% of the owner contingency is held in reserve for unknown risk pending resolution. And we have a detailed list of the individual charge authorizations.
Awesome.
So,
So yeah, the first order of business is amendment 4, or change order 4 for Fontaine. As Dottie alluded to, it's made up of 3 PCOs, which totaled $31,235. So each one of those PCOs was reviewed by the Technical Review Committee and was recommended to the Select Board in change order number 4. And we'll just run through quickly each one of those PCOs. The first one is PCO number 20, which was for the bridge seal plaques. So it's to provide 4 bronze plaques for the bridges over the wetlands on site, the back of the DPW. Those plaques were not included in our base contract award. So there was an RFI, and then there was a proposal request issued by the design team for Fontaine to price and provide pricing for, which was approved by the TRC for a value of $602,057. The second PCO was number 44. This is for the bridge deck panel elevations. So at the bridges, there was a few discrepancies for the elevations of the panels, which required some additional grout and concrete and haunches back there. So that was reviewed by the design team in the form of an RFI, inclusive of their subconsultants, and the RFI was answered, and it required that additional concrete, haunches, and grout. That's a total of $21,564. And the third PCO included in change order 4 was for an added water line gate valve at public safety. So this actually isolates the water line going back to the DPW. So this was looked at and established that, yes, we should include this valve. And TRC also recommended that. So it was for the additional valve and work required to do that for $3,414. So all of those make up change order number 4 for Fontaine. Any questions on any of them?
what does the delta column mean for,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got the approved cost and then the delta for the first one?
So when we track these changes, if we know that there's one coming, we'll put a rough order of magnitude in there so we have exposure on our end. Then also, if we get a change order that comes in, or if we get a PCO that comes in on our end, there might be a lot of times where that comes down to the final value, and that's what that delta is. The delta is showing our initial exposure versus the approved cost.
Okay.
So the amount, the total amounts, it sounded like it was more than 31, but I must be missing something.
Nope, it's 31,000.
The way you were describing it, it sounded to me like there was more.
6,257, 21,564, and 3,414.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood the first, okay.
Maybe I misspoke. I
Yeah,
apologize.
okay, all right, okay.
What is a bridge seal plaque?
It's a bronze plaque that's about 12 inches in diameter.
Yeah, so if you go over bridges in town, there's often a town seal. So in the design, we had the recesses for the town seal, but we didn't carry the town seal in our documents. So
I gotcha.
just a little bit of disconnect between our team on the architecture side that provides most of the signage around the site, between our landscape architects and our interior, designers and architects, and our bridge team, which is a consultant who provided the bridge and all of the the precast concrete. They provided the recess. We just didn't provide the plaque to go in it. So this just closes that scope gap.
Gotcha. I didn't know if it was a construction term or something, but it's just a simple plaque.
It's just a plaque.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Craig, you want to make a motion?
I move to approve the Fontaine Brothers Incorporated contract change order number 4, public safety buildings project, in the amount of $31,235.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Bodger, yes.
All right, terrific. The next item is item number 10, discussion and vote, Castle Booze Associates, amendment number 6, public safety building project, IT procurement, design, and closeout.
Okay, so the next item is for contract amendment to Kessel Booth and Associates, the designer for the project. And it's for specifically the IT and AV package, subconsultant or designer that was not part of their base scope when KBA got signed up. So the IT and AV package is included but not limited to audio video systems for training rooms, meeting rooms, conference rooms, network core equipment, servers, firewall, storage, UPSs, wireless network systems, digital signage, telephone, voice over IP systems, computers, laptops, printers, and related end user devices. So this was brought to the MBC and then was recommended to go to the select board for a contract amendment. So the MBC is fully aware of this as well. The total value of this amendment would be $278,850. Any questions?
Greg, can you, or I don't know which one of you is answering this, but so this has come to us now and not earlier. Explain that a little bit.
So much like the last amendment that you approved for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, this is a very similar thing where sometimes owners choose to procure their own equipment through either internal staff or an outside vendor. In this case, given the position of the town with a new IT director coming on board, we thought it best to recommend the service. It is a consulting service that we offer through a consultant who's well versed in this procurement. They take and design out your infrastructure within the buildings, given that in your case you're moving the majority of town networks that are housed currently at the police department. It's important that transition happen
perfectly.
I won't say perfectly, but as seamlessly as possible. So that is in help in doing that and making sure that when you get costs in from a vendor through one of several different procurement options that you have, that they're in line with what industry standards are, and they are kind of the go-between between these vendors and the larger project team. So that's really what this does. It allows us to make sure we're kind of up to date with technology, and procuring technology we like to hold till the very last minute because things change so rapidly in this space that it's necessary to kind of hold off until you really need to.
Yeah, that makes sense. As we know, it's like every 6 months your computer's no longer.
This is similar to the way that it was with the schools. Some of these things got pulled out at the end as well. This actually looks like a really good price for that kind of work, for the size of those buildings and
Right, for the three
you know,
buildings.
the
And
mass.
I believe this includes making sure that it's interoperable with the town's internet, fiber, and everything, and with ECAT having a room there, and there's a lot of moving pieces.
There's quite a bit in this package. The budget for IT is somewhere in the $3 million range, so that kind of gives perspective. We're within about 10% cost for the budget. So it's a very large scope, and having a team on board that specializes in this is really beneficial.
Yep. All right.
I'm good.
Craig?
I move to approve KBA amendment number 6, public safety building project ID procurement, design, and closeout, amount of $278,850.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Barger, yes.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. Thanks,
you,
great.
guys.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Next up, we have the presentation of the preliminary non-override fiscal 27 operating budget and draft override schedule. So we have Finance Director Wendy Nightingale, and Connor will be presenting.
Sure, thank you, Dottie. We're just going to get the presentation pulled up on screen. You're free to take that seat. Yeah.
Sorry in advance for this.
Thanks, Sean. And thank you, Dottie, and everyone else who's here tonight.
Great
Happy-
pictures. I
Yes,
love the one of Town Hall.
Yes, yes, we try. We have our facilities are going to be in lovely shape after all that work, which is quite nice. So Wendy and I are here tonight. We have the Chiefs and Dave here as well for any questions, just to have a conversation and give a presentation of the preliminary operating budget for fiscal year 27. This is about 2 months earlier than we typically do it. The town charter requires it by March 1st. I've always made practice with Wendy of trying to have it at some point in February. Obviously, given my departure, the board's planning for an override. We have been targeting January for some time, but I don't want to forget, as I get into the weeds of the presentation, to say thank you to Wendy and all the department heads and the staff here who have worked additional nights, weekends to get this done through the holidays, so that we are leaving what I think is the most responsible preliminary budget possible for this board and the community at such an early stage while you make some tough choices moving ahead. So thank you to those folks as well as my staff. So this is my 10th and final annual operating budget that I will present to the town of Easton. I want to just give a quick note on the timing. I just kind of talked through that without looking at the slide. Because this is early, I want to emphasize, and it says preliminary throughout, but this is preliminary. The figures here will shift and they will move as the budget iterates through the spring, particularly because where we are right now, we do not yet have a state budget proposal. So there's listed on screen. There's going to be budget change memos issued by Sean and Wendy in my absence. The governor's budget is due out at the end of this month. That's going to tell us what we can expect for state revenue, which is huge. We have ranges from the GIC, but we don't have finals yet. That'll be in the coming weeks. That's going to be huge. And we don't yet have a regional school tuition assessments. That's an area that's grown 40% in 2 years. So obviously that can have a big impact. Just those three things can swing the budget 6 figures in one direction or another. So this is preliminary. That said, it's a reasonable and responsible baseline to start planning for next year. Before getting into what is, forgive me in advance, a relatively lengthy presentation that the Chiefs are going to help me break the middle up of, I want to just ask the board to think about these 2 goals, and we'll come back to this at the very end. This budget has 2 goals. One is to partially mitigate any additional cuts. The current proposal you're going to review tonight, that we're going to put online tomorrow and send to everyone, contemplates using no reserves. Using one-time reserve money in the operating budget must be limited, and to the extent the board closes the remainder of any of this gap with any one-time funds down the line, in my opinion, should only be done to avoid major layoffs that would impact safety or legal compliance. So that's the first, I'm not starting you off in the hole here. There's not already reserves plowed into this. Number 2 is that we cannot artificially rebuild our services. And so really the guiding philosophy here is if there is going to be one-time money, it's one thing to use it to soften your dissent, but it is not acceptable to use it to try to artificially bring back recurring costs for staff and programs that we know we need. And we know we need them because the town and school department are down functionally 10% of our workforce in 18 months. We're down 70 positions. Those cuts are real. The impact on education is real. The impact, as we talked about tonight, public works is real. The impact on public safety is real. However, to Dottie's point, the vote on June 10th was not ambiguous. It was clear to live within our means, and we're doing that. So this budget has 2 goals. Mitigate those additional cuts to the extent we can responsibly, and do not artificially rebuild spending back with one-time money. The rationale is relatively straightforward. We need structural balance. We have not had a structurally balanced budget in nearly 20 years since the last override. We need to match our ongoing operating costs with our current recurring revenue sources, what those actually are, not what we wish they were. We've had conversations, and the board will certainly, in my absence after I depart, have conversations where folks will look at the reserves that we have built over time and said, just move those in and call it a day. Reserves are not for that. They're for emergencies. And if we burn through those on an ongoing basis when we're not in a recession, we are engendering a far more difficult budget year than we've had to face. The second reason why these two goals are there is the moral hazard of bringing back recurring expenses that we cut this year using one-time reserve funds will create a cliff we know is coming in fiscal 28, making very likely that if we ask these department heads or the schools to go hire staff with one-time money, that those folks might not have a job in 13 months, and that's not the right way to go about it. The third reason why this budget aims to not have reserves in and out of the gate is to minimize the override tax impact. Because, and this might be a little weedy, and hopefully by the end of tonight I communicate it well, but the closer to structural balance the non-override budget is, which is what we're presenting tonight, which means the fewer one-time dollars that have to bridge that gap are in that budget, that's necessarily means the fewer dollars are needed for an override to start restoring services. The override proposed last year of $7.3 million, about half of that was just to be swapped out with one-time money, which I think led to a lot of frustration with the public, led to a lot of people asking, why is this override so expensive and so much of it isn't going to adding staff? It was because it was swapping revenue sources. The closer to structurally balanced this budget is, the less ground you as the select board have to make up with whatever final override ballot you pick. So getting into the actual presentation. After years of fiscal strife brought on by historic inflation and surging fixed costs like health insurance and utilities culminating in the failed override last year, and significant cuts to programs, positions, and spending across the town and school budgets, fiscal 27 offers Easton an opportunity for financial realignment. And should an override be adopted by voters in April, fiscal 27 will offer a legitimate opportunity to rebuild town and educational programs. The preliminary budget that we're going to discuss tonight is a non-override scenario because it's going to be the baseline that you have to build any override request on. General fund expenditures are forecast at $108.7 million. This number reflects no restorations. So when folks look at this and get to that deficit number and say that's not as bad as it usually is, they're correct, but that's because this restores nothing. The general fund revenues are forecast at $108,300,000 and change, which gives you a preliminary budget deficit of $430,000. This budget currently proposes the use of zero reserve funds so as to not artificially and unsustainably restore cuts lost to the failed override. Some watching this, and as you go through the process, will certainly be tempted to simply shuffle $430,000 of reserves into that budget deficit and call it a day. However, that doesn't do anything to address the structural reality here, which is that our police, fire, and public works staff levels are down, well below peer communities and appropriate operating levels, and our forced overtime is up. General government and health and community service staff levels are down. Our fees to mitigate further cuts are up. The Easton Public Schools staffing is down. Their programmatic offerings are down, and their classroom sizes are up. Our health insurance premiums are poised to increase by another $1 million next year, up $3 million or 33% in only 3 years. Our town staff levels are down 20 positions. That's 11.6% of our workforce since fiscal 25, and the schools are down nearly 50, which is 9%. So while moving reserves into the budget could balance it as a technical matter of fact for the 12 months of fiscal 27, it would not do so structurally. Only an infusion of new recurring revenue, like an override, would be able to do so. And I know the board has spoken about it openly, and you are going to have decisions coming rather quickly that you intend to give voters that choice, because it is ultimately up to voters, not me, not the select board, what level of revenue is going to come in to support these public services. Now, there's way too much stuff up here on screen, so I put a box around the ones that matter. The summary table shown here shows the impact of those substantial cuts made to town and school budgets leading up to and following the failed override, with both town and school operating budgets projected to decrease next year. Not decrease from the level that is requested, decrease nominally. This doesn't account for inflation or anything. You're looking at $800,000 reduction to municipal departments, or almost 4%, and right now $1.53 million reduction to the public school budget to realign it with their actual spending, which is nonetheless nearly a 3% reduction. And I do want to highlight. You see down at the bottom there, the preliminary budget deficits, right? Because I don't want folks to somehow think we're hiding the ball here. The deficit we are facing right now is substantially better than where we've been in recent years, right? The preliminary deficit last year started at over 6 million, and the year before that was 3.2. It's been steadily growing the past 2 years as those healthcare costs got out of control. But I really don't want anyone's takeaway from this say, oh, okay, the problem's fixed, right? Because the price that was paid to get to that smaller deficit is through cuts to services and staff, which is what this slide shows. I already mentioned the nominal dollar reductions of $800,000 and $1.53 million, respectively. What those dollar amount reductions do is reflect the actual level of staff working for these departments as of January 1st. I distinguish this date from the beginning of the fiscal year in July because both the town and school departments have reduced additional positions since the fiscal year began through attrition and retirement, with many positions frozen or cut outright in anticipation of the needs to reduce our budgets further going into fiscal 27. So rather than hire back every position that was technically funded for those 12 months, we have frozen many, not filled many, so that we are not doing forced layoffs, involuntary layoffs, to get to those cuts. A summary of the total staff levels in the town and school are showed on screen here, and you can see that this is really significant. These are not accounting adjustments or cuts only on paper. These are real. These have translated into very difficult decisions where people have had their jobs terminated, where services people rely on have been reduced, where our departments have been asked to do more and more with less. But that is what we are able to do with the revenue that we are currently afforded. By reducing those positions via attrition throughout the current fiscal year, the town and the schools are less likely to need significant involuntary layoffs to reduce overall budget spending and balance the budget next year. This could still change, as I opened with. This is not final, but the outlook right now, given where the deficit is, cautiously optimistic. But I really want to emphasize that the potential of a non-override budget without significant layoffs shouldn't just be construed as everything's great. As the table here shows, staff across the board has been dramatically reduced at a time when the need for service, both in quantitative terms, the ones that you could look, you just pull, fire department had a record year last year. Look at the past week with 3 fires, and I believe multiple significant car accidents. The fire department is busier than ever. The police department is busier than ever. Setting aside the challenges of those calls, just in pure numbers, the calls for service have gone up. The number of staff we have to respond has gone down. And then you get into the qualitative needs, where folks might sometimes say, oh, well, school enrollment's gone down, easy, budget solved. The needs of kids socially, emotionally after the pandemic are fundamentally different. The level of needs that students have is different. And those are growing. Those expectations are growing. The amount of mandates that schools are expected to comply with usually doesn't go down, it goes up. The money that comes with it usually doesn't go up commensurately. And so at a time when the service needs, the public service needs are growing, we have reduced our staff. And the employees of the town and schools have shouldered an increasing workload burden as more of those positions have been eliminated. And I know this board does so regularly, but I don't want to, in my final budget, not say that those employees deserve acknowledgement and tremendous respect for that. But while that's proper and a decent thing to do, it's not actually a plan. And we have to prioritize increasing recurring revenue to start restoring positions and adequately staffing our operations. Getting into town departments. So town departments include things like general government, public safety, public works, the Ames Free Library, and health and community services. This forecast to be reduced by just over $800,000, which for a $20 million operation, that's quite significant. That's almost a 4% reduction for a total of $20,462,000. These cuts are nearly all from reducing personnel, reflecting a decrease of an additional 13 full-time equivalents since fiscal year 26 began. Those reductions here are shown on screen. There, of course, the most visible example is the fire department. We had significant amount of movement in that department leading up to and following the failed override. Not from budget cuts. We only cut technically 2 positions, but the confidence of that department was shaken. Folks sought employment elsewhere, sought other opportunities, and that turned into a difficult situation we'll talk a little bit more about that we've worked very hard to rectify. We've lost additional positions in DPW, in general government, and in health and community services. So I alluded to earlier that the largest change that we've seen is in the fire department. the volume of resignations and the associated increase in involuntary overtime of those remaining shifts, along with the long-term financial uncertainty posed unless and until an override is approved, necessitated a shift in operating approach, and the department, working in concert with town leadership, the select board, fire union, pivoted to a private EMS transport model that's going to take effect starting very shortly on February 1st. Easton's fire chief, deputy chief, and all of IAFF Local 2790 deserve a significant amount of credit and thanks for their extraordinary efforts to address the critical staff shortage in a manner that will protect firefighter and patient safety. And as was noted repeatedly throughout the development and deployment of that operating model in public meetings, this was a safety decision that was made. This was not and will not be a net budget savings, as ambulance revenue, $1.7 million annually, once paid to Easton, will no longer be paid to the town, will be collected by the EMS Transport Company. We have a website devoted to the subject. It's easton.ma.us/EMS if people are tuning in for the first time and hearing about this, where all those questions are there, the chief's presentations on the subjects are there. And again, I'm very thankful of the chief, the deputy, and of the union's work, as well as the support of the board on getting them there and getting them safe. I should have been more clear earlier that despite those significant budget cuts, this is reflecting the cuts that are already here. This does not propose new cuts, especially to public safety. This budget does not propose additional staff cuts to the fire department, and in my judgment, that should not be considered, override or not. The police department has cut 2 positions between fiscal 25 and 26, and is also not proposed to have additional officers cut in this year. And as with the fire department, any further cuts to police should be off the table to balance the deficit, because we have simply reached an operating position that cannot go in reverse anymore. Both chiefs are here. There's an extra chair there you could all fit with Wendy. But Dottie and I spoke, and given particularly last week, the call volume, some of the difficulty of calls, I asked if they would be willing just to come up and talk a little bit in real terms about what are the challenges that they are facing trying to manage these departments right now, included in the budget memo that the board has, and the public will have as well, from both chiefs, as well as Director Field and Director Kennedy and HCS are explaining the challenges they're facing, the staffing shortfalls they have, and that what this board has said, but this is an opportunity to further the conversation that the public safety has to be the top priority municipally in an override. So chiefs, if you wouldn't mind just coming up, and Dottie, I'll turn it over to you as far as questions you might want to field from the board. Sure. Before we get into talking about the revenue, I didn't want this to be disjointed and talk about revenue for 15 minutes and say, actually, chiefs, come back up and talk about the budget. So thank you both for being here.
Just be careful for the colds.
Welcome. Chief, how are you?
We appreciate you both for being here. And these are tough conversations. And one of the things, I was talking with someone recently, you're in such a bad position, because to come up here and, really be completely honest is going to really scare people. The truth is, you're doing the best you can. You've said this over and over, and you will do it. But if we don't fund you and give you the resources that you need to do the job, your best isn't going to cut it. And, anytime bad things happen, you hear thoughts and prayers, and we're so, I read every time there's an incident on social media, the gratitude, the prayers, the good encouragement, that is not going to alleviate a tragedy from happening in our public safety, in my opinion. And I just want to recognize that you're really in a tough position, because we're asking you to do things that are just about impossible to do. And we're really hurting, in my opinion, we're really hurting our staff and burning them out and putting them in a dangerous position. And I think that, I don't know that people really understand the extent of it, but I will say that on the fire the other night, I listened to it on the scanner. I was so tense and so stressed out listening to it, and the energy of what was going on and how fast it was. And then even the next morning, the fire service got called back again because it was there were flames. So during that night, not only was that happening, now we have 3 police cruisers out, right? They're up there trying to keep maintaining traffic. There's an accident down by Gianna. Like, there's still other stuff going on. And we only have 3 police, and we had 4-alarm fire. We were bringing people from Whitman, Bridgewater. That's far away to get them in here. And then the next morning, while they were getting called back again, there was an alarm and an evacuation at Shovel Works. There was an accident down at 5 Corners. There was another public safety requirement on Bay Road, like all over the place. Where are we even coming up with the people to do this stuff when we're in the middle of a catastrophe over on Main Street or North Main Street? There were 3 fires last week, or this week / last week. I mean, I don't think people have any idea of the number of calls and the volume of calls. A typical day in the life, I used to think this before I learned more about it, that, you know, the fire staff, they're in the fire station and they're eating pizza and they're waiting for the next call to come in. That is not the way it is anymore. And the call volume surely shows that, but I would love for you to talk about like a day in the life of what these calls sound like and the type of response that you're trying to come up with. So that's a lot. I'm sorry, I just dumped a lot on you.
That's okay. We'll unpack it all together. Thank you. Appreciate you having us here tonight. I think it's important to point out that 2025 was nearly a 9% increase in run volume for us in 1 year, and that's not insignificant. That's a lot. We're already running lean to begin with, and then we tack on closing on 10% in a single year. It's a challenge, and one of the things that's hard for us is our geography is big, and the amount of trucks that we have is small, and the cross-town times are long to drive across town, as we all know, especially trying to get around during traffic times. So the pressure is on us to try to get to all of these calls in a reasonable amount of time. So as the run volume goes up, which we don't anticipate it going down, so, each year it can go up a little more, a little less. Maybe next year it goes up 4%, but we don't anticipate it ever going down, unless like the COVID 1 year bump where it went down. Other than that, the trend has been going this way for almost every community for 15 years or more. So we anticipate that happening. But what I think we have to look at is we recognize we had a really big problem in the fire department, and all of you stepped up, and town leadership stepped up, and finance director stepped up, and we found a path to plug the holes in the pipe. But the problem is the pipe's still not new. Like, we didn't come up with some new model where we're going to put out an NFPA, which regulates what we do standard all the time, around the clock, 4 firefighters in every truck every single day. That's the standard. We're not there yet. We're a little better, but we're not there yet. And we can't take our eye off the fact that we're going down this new model together, and that there's still work to be done. So when we say we're going to get 3 firefighters on a truck, that's great. That's a good step. A lot of communities can't do that. But when we're committing to this model, we can't not finish it. We have to work towards it. And to get to that 4 per truck that we're putting out the door, because we're condensing our staff into 2 trucks, not 3 or 4, just 2, plus the officer's car, which means that when we arrive on a scene, we have to be 100% effective. And there's been study after study after study in the fire service that the most effective fire engine or ladder truck is when you put 4 firefighters on it. That's when we get the most done for that 1 truck. And so if we're not spreading ourselves out amongst many trucks, which makes us able to get to more places but do less work, we're focusing on, we got to get to as many places as we can, but do a lot of work with a very concentrated set of firefighters to get the work done. So when you take all that into account, we need to look at, well, where do we go in the spring? The overrides we talked about many times tonight. What do we do? Our shift is going to be 8, but we're still dropping to 7 in the new model with the private ambulance service. So progress in condensing, but we're doing that through condensing, not investment, right? This is going to cost money, as Connor pointed out. This isn't some revenue saving thing. So it's the investment, and the request is to try to staff our department at 9, not 8. That does a couple things. That puts, at least when everybody's working, 4 people on every truck. When people are on vacation or sick time, it might go down and drop to 3, but that's a step, right? This isn't just something that happens overnight, it's a step. And we get to that by bringing our shifts to 9. 2 the big fire trucks will have 4 on each one if everybody's working. That's huge. That's a big thing in this region to be able to do that. Cities do that. It's an investment in the model. And what it also does is it takes away some of the mandatory overtime that we have. That isn't going away in this model. I think that needs to be very clear. Like, the forced overtime still remains. It's just how we're doing it. where by not going to the hospital in the ambulance over and over and doing all that paperwork and dealing with the hospital and sitting at the hospital for an hour and a half waiting to get somebody off your stretcher, by not doing that, the pressure of the forced overtime is different. They're still there, they're still putting in the hours, but it's not quite as fatiguing. I mean, obviously this past week is fatiguing, but generally speaking, it's not as fatiguing. So we're able to get those 72-hour shifts aren't quite as fatiguing on our firefighters, but we don't want them to work 72 hours at all. Like, that's the most important thing. Let's get these guys and women off of 72-hour shifts and back to their 48s, or maybe pick up one night shift or something. And that has to be the goal. 72 hours straight is just not a safe thing, and we're still going to have that. And part of that override means that we would have 9 drop to 7. We don't want to be a 7. Again, it's a step, because 2 people can be off at that point without forced overtime, which helps. So all of these pieces I just explained, and I appreciate your indulgence kind of explaining where we're going, is that there's still work to be done, and that if an override request does come to the fire department to say, what would you ask for? It would be those 4 firefighters, restoration of our training budget, because we're trying to invest in this model to be efficient, but we have no money right now to train ourselves to be efficient. So to fix that, and then to work on, we have our expense budget where we buy our supplies has been chronically underfunded. So those would be the areas that right? Yeah. Absolutely. So those would be our 3 areas we would ask for the voters and the board to support for an override, to try to put another step in the positive direction in our rebuilding. We are rebranding ourselves, like, no doubt about it. We are doing something the fire service very rarely does. I say 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. It's one of our sayings, and that's on us right now. We're reinventing ourselves as a fire department, and we hope to continue that investment and drive us forward into something that we can really be proud of. So I'll take any questions that we had related to the fire department.
So I'm just going to say, having met with some of the firefighters on Friday morning and just talking to folks who responded that morning, and how critical training is, and the hats that got switched en route to that call, which started as a medical call, then got almost basically terminated as a false alarm, and then they still continue on to do a welfare check and show up, and now they got a structure fire in their hands, and they're grabbing gear and doing everything they could, and their wonderful response. Such a tragic event, but the family member of the woman who passed, who then wrote and spoke eloquently about the fire service and what you guys accomplished. And so you're absolutely right. We need to fund and make sure that training that had been getting in the past and was funded, that continues. And you were big on that. When you came here, you had open houses where people could come in and see the value of having doors shut, bedroom doors shut, and buying time for the fire department to get there and save lives, and all that stuff, all that community interaction. That's a lot about what we're talking about here, from health and community services to DPW to fire and police. It's the outreach, it's the engaging our community and giving them these valuable things that other communities don't have, that outreach and that touch. And then the relationships that grow from that. All of a sudden, the trust in the police department, trust in the fire, DPW, and that's what we want, and we need that again. And we're lost our way, and we have an opportunity to get back on track. So thank you.
Thank you. It's absolutely true.
I really appreciate that you have, having gone through this past year, reinventing, having to come back with something not entirely new, but where it's unique in our space, to change the model. But now you have a plan to rebuild based off of that model, and you're going to be looking at what is it that you're specifically asking for to build upon that model that we've just shifted into. And I think your head is in the exact right space to do that. And if an override is successful, and you'll be able to get to exactly where you want to be. And we could have gone from really difficult position. We make these moves, we make these changes, and then in a year, if successful, we've solved the problem inside of 1 year or a couple of years, and we can't do that without the vision that you're having. So I appreciate where your head is at.
Thank you. A lot of thought. I'm not the only one to come up with that vision, but I'm just articulating it. So.
Well, you have to execute it.
That's true. But thank you.
Yeah, I've been so impressed with your creativity and your thoughtfulness and your engagement of other people to try to come up with plans for addressing this issue. I was fortunate enough to see the post that the family put out in thanking the firefighters and the police for the incredible heroic actions that you guys did. I think those are the kinds of opportunities we have to point out to the public that we need. This is not, we're not faking this. We're not overspending. It's a real issue that we have. And we've got to get to a point where people that work for you feel safe doing what they need to do, and the public responds to that. I think a lot of people don't realize how much creativity goes into the things that you've done. I mean, the simple things like having a mechanic that works on our trucks and that other towns don't have, and they come rushing to us and say, we'll buy that service. I think that's an incredible accomplishment. I think you know how all in I am around public safety, and that whatever you think you need is going to get my support going forward, I will do as much as I possibly can to articulate those needs going forward until April. I thank you for being here. I know you've been put under a lot of pressure, stress. I appreciate John's work as well. I can't forget John. No. And your whole crew of people who really care about this town and about the people who live in this town. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Jen, are you still up there?
I am here, yes. So thank you, Dottie. I'll just say, thank you, Chief. You always bring really thoughtful and creative ideas, and you kept us going through a really difficult time when things started to become extremely challenging for the fire department. There's like a saying about, when systems are under a state of stress, you really start to see the problems. And I think the challenge here is that, as evidenced by the exemplary performance of the fire department out in the world, it's hard to see it sometimes. But I think the public more and more is understanding the strain and the challenges that our public safety personnel are feeling. So I'm, like my colleagues, will be in full support of making sure that public safety is a priority as we discuss how to, consider an override and move forward with that, which we come up soon in the budget subcommittee meeting. So, thank you. And especially for all the work last week, it was a really challenging week for the community. And the fire department, police department, DPW all played incredible and important roles in getting us through that. So thank you all.
And I would just say, whatever you say you need, I'm 100% behind you. I don't know how to run a fire department, and you have been so upfront and direct and looking for cost savings and everything else. My concern with the scenario that you gave is that these are higher injury jobs by the nature of the job, and if we have somebody that has to go out on short or long-term leave, we lose that progress again. We can't stay at the bare bones. We have to be able to, training is a number one priority for anybody that does this kind of work. We can't cut that. And we have to, people said that they would vote for public safety in an override, and I hope people are watching this, and I hope they'll listen. Do we have anybody on Zoom tonight?
Jackie Weissman.
Yeah. So we're talking about the most important things that are impacting this town, and no one's here and no one's on Zoom. It is so disappointing. And nobody's reaching out to us. Nobody's emailing us. Nobody's asking us questions, the people that can give the answers. So I really hope that people will change that. No, public safety is my number one priority, and I'll work as hard as we can to do that. We're elected to do the work, to understand these processes, to put in the time, to be able to understand what is the best way to help the community. And in my opinion, we are not able to do that without the proper funding. And we're there now, and people really have to be paying attention to this and fund these positions for their safety. We got another email this weekend from a young mother that had an issue and got service from police and fire. And she was so grateful. We get those emails regularly, and we appreciate them when we get them, but I'm just so worried about a tragedy happening because we haven't been able to support the people that we need to. And I just want to say again, and I hope all our fire, police, and DPW staff know how much we care and value their work and professionalism, but I just want to say it again.
Thank you. If I could, just one last statement. I just want to take a moment. It's been a pretty hard week for the fire department, and I just want to point out the professionalism and that I'm proud of every one of them. We went through a lot this past week. The fire service came together in grand fashion the other night. We don't see 4-alarm fires in town, thankfully, and to see your staff operate the way they did, to see the firefighters do what they did, to see, you know, if you see some of our pictures, you could see how spent they were, exhausted they were. They did an outstanding job. I'm truly proud of them and humbled to be able to be their leader. And I just want to take a moment in front of all of you to point out that, from me, I'm grateful for them. And they just do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dottie, if I could pick on one of the items you highlighted, because I think Chief Boone can speak to it very well, is that one of the challenges we face in these departments that are 24/7 is not just the total staff number that's funded, but you also, like, life happens, injuries in these jobs happen. And so police department's a really good case in point on that, on injuries on duty or folks who are otherwise out, where their staff numbers have been dropped. But Chief, can you just talk about what have the budget cuts of the past couple of years done to your staff level once they actually are coupled with the reality of how many people are working for the police department, able to show up?
Yeah. Well, thank you again for the, and I will answer that question about what is the day in the life of the police department right now after this. But so we've, in addition to attrition, you know, losing some officers over the past 3 years, really since I've become chief, we've lost an officer each year. So we're down to 37, really, and that's including me. Right now, we were actually, up until a few days ago, that number was really 33. We have some long-term injuries. We have some people out on parental leave right now, some modified duty, a military deployment. He did just return this week, so we did net again an officer. He'll be in a training program for about another month before he can go out on the road. But we're really operating with levels that are, I would say, less than 21st century numbers, really, since the 90s. We've got about 33 to 34 officers coming into work, which is really 26 to our patrol staff. So to get to your point about what is a day life in the police department right now, our officers are going from call to call to call to call to call. And we don't have anything we can privatize, right? So there's no path for us. So my biggest concern right now is officer burnout. We have 3 detectives doing the work of 5. Our detective sergeant is handling all of our discovery, our body camera footage. He's serving as the court officer. We have no court prosecutor. That job has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. More recently in the last 5 years with different legal requirements. We had an outreach program that was, you know, really working well. Thankfully, I've been able to piecemeal together using a grant. So we're doing a lot of things outside of work hours. These 2 officers are able to stay out, you know, on overtime, and I'm getting reimbursed through a grant. That grant's running out this year. So when you are constantly having 4 officers try to cover 30 square miles, and that's where we're at right now. There's 4 officers on the shift right now. We're always 4 on the road. I had to cut the midnight shift to 3 officers. They're not happy about it. I'm not happy about it. We had a horrific accident about a month, half ago, where we all responded. I showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, critical incidents I need to go to, but in fairness to them, they're 3 officers on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they can't go anywhere. So I'm responding to some of these calls in the middle of the night, per policy and for moral reasons, right? We have a young staff. The reason we're able to get this done is because we have a good staff. And thankfully, we haven't seen any turnover, but we're at the point now where I worry about officers leaving for other police departments that can offer a stable work environment, not getting forced overtime a lot. We're going to hit a stretch in the next few months where there's a lot of time that officers are trying to use to do things with their family, and that results in officers getting forced to work because they just don't want to work voluntarily anymore. You know, there's too much going on in their shifts. Right now, I'm sure there's people on doubles already. So we're managing it because of the good people we have. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, we have an amazing staff. They go from call to call to call. Some of them are going on calls by themselves because in situations like the other night, somebody has to peel off of a fire on North Main Street and drive down to Turnpike and Foundry for a car accident because there's nobody else. So I credit them. You know, it's really, they're doing the work. I'd love to say that I'm out taking all the calls. I'm not anymore. So it's a credit to them. But what we would really need, I'd love to say we need 10 officers to get to 46. That's what our comparables would be. That's what the state average is. I'm asking for half that. I think we need 5 more police officers. We have to have 5 more. That'll get us to a number of 42. We can reestablish our command staff. It's still a deputy chief and 1 lieutenant for a department that should have 3 lieutenants. It really should, if we even look around. Our body cameras, our records requests, like, there is so much administrative functionality that is being done, being abused. I'm abusing the deputy chief and our detective sergeant with a lot of these things because there's nobody else to do it, because everyone else has to be on the road. They have to respond to the calls. So I can't pull a supervisor in, even to do firearms licensing. He's got to stay after work on overtime because it's too busy for him to just come in the station and try to make appointments. So just for that general function of licensing people for firearms. So 5 officers gets us to a place where we can rebuild our command staff, have a dedicated court officer, increase our detectives. These guys are doing a great job. They're solving crimes now, and it's just, but they're at a point where burnout's coming. We had a fire on Belmont Street where we're evacuating. The next day, we're at a fatal car accident. The next night, we're at another fire. We're at a fire last night. People probably don't even know we had one last night. Great job as always again. So these weeks really stress, the stress level goes to a new height, and it makes people look around. Well, maybe this other department doesn't have that, and they start talking to their peers in other communities. Everyone's short right now, I get that, but we're at a point now where we've been lean before we were lean. We were lean when we had 39 officers. So taking the people away, taking the cuts in the overtime we've had to do and try to rework the midnight shift, it's working, but at what cost? So I think 5, if we're talking override numbers, I think 5 officers is more than reasonable. If we talk wants and needs, it's a need. It really is a need. Again, that puts us at 42, way behind comparables that have been around for 15 years. We know what the police department should be staffed at. It's never been staffed appropriately since I've worked here. And that's just how it's always been, right? That's how it's always been. And, that's the price you pay when you have good people all around town. No one's ever been staffed properly. Fire, police, DPW, it's consistent. But at some point, those caliber employees, start looking in other places. And we saw it in the fire department. We watched that. I watched it happen, biting my fingernails. Like, we got a young corps. He has a young corps. They all get along and they all talk to each other. So it's not that out of the question that, police officers can start looking around other departments. We've just been, again, fortunate that hasn't happened yet. So I hope that answers the question.
And we've always considered the DPW as part of the 3-pronged approach as part of our public safety team, which I think is kind of unique. But they do. Sometimes I know cases that we've talked about where the DPW was the first people there to help, and we need to be looking at that as well. We have an opportunity to do this now. The longer we wait, the more at risk we are. And nobody's exaggerating. There's no extra money. If anybody wants to look at our numbers, they're all online. The budget is there. It will show you in the column what the increase was over the year before. These numbers of cuts are all online. And if somebody wants to call us or email us, we will personally sit down and go through the budget with somebody. I will assure you, we'll do that for a person, we'll do it for a small group. This is a crisis situation now, and I don't want to be the person that's in this seat waiting for something really bad to happen on our watch. And I can't stress enough, and I feel like the board would certainly agree, this is something that we really need to do this, and we really need to have the right, the right amount of people to do the job.
Say a few things. So, thanks. You shared it as eloquently, both of you, and that's what you prove as the leaders you are, and that's why we have the caliber of people that continue to stay here. And Dave, you're in the same boat. You've got good caliber of people because you're good leaders, and you're doing an amazing job, and people want to work for you out of respect, right? It's not, you don't demand it. You guys earn it. But you said it. We are really crushing the morale, and so there's a breaking point. We don't want to see you get to that point where, Justin, you've already dealt with it. So yes, we hope people, just as Dottie said, are listening, are going to get involved, get out, do whatever we have to do to get the word out, to share with people what type of community do we want. Is it one where good people that come to work and appreciate the leadership in the community and feel like they have the resources to do their jobs, to stay safe, and the number one priority of you two gentlemen is that they go home in the same form they came to work, right? That each one of them goes back to their families in good health. And risky jobs by nature, and we can't thank enough the folks that sign up to do the work that they do, but shouldn't be because we haven't provided them with what they need. Knowing the risk that they're already taking, we don't need to add to that risk, and that's what you guys, I know, are most concerned about, and Dave, you too, because when your team's out there responding, when we've got storms, and there's electrical wires down, and as Dottie mentioned, you're the first crew on the scene to maybe remove a tree or make sure people aren't coming up on a power line and getting, injured or killed, because that happens. It happens, I think, frequently, especially in a community like ours where we get frequent windstorms and we have a lot of trees and we have a lot of old homes. I live in a 1778, and you see things like this past week happen, and that stuff goes through your mind about, are we giving folks the tools they need to respond and be safe in the process? Thank you all.
Yeah, the comment, we have to decide what type of community we want to live in. And I remember when the override occurred, everything that led up to the override, and then the override occurred and it fails. And I think in our first select board meeting, or one of the earlier ones, we were so sensitive, hypersensitive about the safety of the community. That was the first thing that we were really concerned about. And then we could see people leaving. We could see the writing on the wall, and then backs against the wall. We have to do something. And I remember having a conversation about the frustration of the public. And do they really know how compromised our police, fire, DPW, how truly compromised they are? I remember having the conversation, and I think we all said it. It's not a matter of if, but when, and when someone gets hurt or when someone gets killed. It sounds harsh, but I say it deliberately because that's the reality. If your staff is burnt out, one of them could get hurt or killed, or a member of the public is not getting the services that they need, and the shock of people not supporting this. And I remember saying we all did. We have to give this back to the community so that they can specifically say, no, I don't want more fire, or no, I don't want more police, or no, I don't want more DPW, because I can't sleep at night unless I know explicitly you're saying no to this, to the public. And this is going to be another shot to say, to remind them of the situation we're in, the dangerousness, the precariousness of the situation we're in, and for them to be absolutely clear, what type of community do you want to live in? So hearing you guys tonight explaining a day in the life, the difficulty, and how without this, nothing is going to improve. It's just going to get worse. People are going to get hurt, and eventually somebody could lose a life.
I am very concerned and have been, and I've indicated to all of you about my priority is public safety. And I've had the privilege of getting to know a lot of the young police officers over the last couple of years, and I know how much they care about this town, and they know how much they are invested. And I also know how stressful it can be with going from one incident to another, to another, to another. I want to assure the public that that's one of my absolute priorities, is public safety. And as Jamie and Mark said, public works is absolutely as important and as appreciated as that I have, the appreciation I have for both you and your staffs. I look at the paperwork that Connor has so beautifully produced for us, and I can't believe where we sit compared to our 18 comparable communities. It's amazing. We're 17th out of 18 that are comparable in our per resident spending. And yet we have a fantastic town and a fantastic group of people that work for us. And I was so upset when the override failed, as much because of the 65% of the people in this community that didn't go out and vote. And that just, for me, the right to vote, the responsibility to vote is paramount. It's our community, folks. And I just was appalled at that. And in my conversation with folks, we have a responsibility to do whatever we need to do to get more people out to vote, particularly to support public safety. There's no way that we can go on the way we've been going. I'm committed to another 3 years, and so I'm all in again to do what needs to be done to get you what you need, what this community needs. And I love this thing about what kind of a community do you want to live in. I think that's a great thing to ask people. So kudos to you guys, and thank you for the work that you do.
All right, continue on with the budget.
Thanks, Chiefs.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome
much.
to stay, but you've had a few late nights, so you're free to go as well.
I should also thank Wendy, too.
Or actually, sorry, Fire Chief can't leave. You have another contract. Wendy's still here for quite some time. So
Mark has to leave at 9, so
I will be
got to be on track.
Much faster on the rest of it. So I just want to touch on here that really we're focusing on public safety as a matter of life safety. Public works is very important. There are other departments of the town government that are extremely important that pose real risk to underfunding. I don't not devote this amount of attention to them because they don't matter. They matter very much. It's just fundamentally in a different area of risk profile than physical safety. But underfunding health and community services harms the quality of life for our seniors, our veterans, vulnerable residents. Underfunding administrative, finance, general government. Those are positions that, if they were on a ballot, almost certainly would not pass. Very few people would say, oh, admin and finance, that's exciting. But when you weaken or cut the administrative and managerial and financial staff responsible for $100+ million organization, you're gambling and waiting for a span of control failure that is not a talent issue. It's predictable, right? Underfunding the library. We have a very generous, an amazing library in town that an enormous amount of it is paid with a trust, so that Easton actually spends a lot less municipally out of tax dollars on our library than most communities. We have to hit certain state minimum funding thresholds, and this is not dissimilar with a lot of things with school systems, that if the town looks to make progress on that deficit, cutting the library, you eventually hit a point where the state starts cutting funding to them as a punishment, and you compound losses. So there's real risks in other areas. So I didn't want any of those departments, by chance, if they watch it, to say that they're not in the same realm, that they're not important. It's just we went for the comprehensive approach in June, and it was not palatable, whether we agree with that or not. So education, Easton Public Schools budget is projected to decrease by about $1.53 million, which is negative 2.9% from fiscal 26 levels to a budget of $50 million and $10,000. It's reflective of a realignment of their budget actuals to reflect current staff levels, as more fully described by the Easton Public Schools on their website, as well as their presentation last week. As staff data from the Easton Public Schools show, in addition to the 43.8 FTE reduced heading into this fiscal year, an additional 5.68 FTE have been reduced since, for a total staff reduction of 49.49, so call it 50 full-time equivalents since fiscal 25. At this time, the district is cautiously optimistic that layoffs would not be necessary under this budget amount. That outlook will be confirmed once more definitive budget information is received, both from the state and from us, as we all work together with the schools to get towards a balanced budget. Just as with the town, the district's number here, reflecting a realignment of their actuals, should not be construed as everything is fine, as it represents a continuation of today's reduced level of educational services, reduced level of staffing, increased classroom sizes for another year. And as with town departments, the only sustainable way in the near term to reverse that trend and to meaningfully restore educational services, reduce classroom sizes, and to give the educators and the staff of this district the tools that they need is through an override. It's not something that's going to be able to be accomplished with one-time money, with budget savings, with reserve funds. I want to make a note, and I promised Chair Wiseman, this is in the budget before I knew you were on the call, about the school budget process, that state law, commonly known as education reform, provides that school committees have independent authority over school operating budget requests. So by my including this figure, I'm not dictating what the school's budget is. I lack that authority. Easton's town charter reinforces that by requiring that the town administrator incorporate whatever the school committee's approved budget is for that year into the overall article that goes to town meeting. So the projection shown here for the schools is not been adopted formally by the school committee, and this presentation of the budget memo, that don't bind them to do so. However, this is based off of a presentation made by the district last week and the information that they currently have available. And based on that current information, this recommended figure is a responsible starting point. A larger school budget would commensurately increase the deficit, which would then need to be offset with other either one-time reserves or additional cuts to other departments. So getting into fixed costs, I'll go quickly here. Fixed costs are things we have limited to no control over. It's things like health insurance, regional assessments, state assessments. This is really where our budget has been taking the hardest hits in recent years. This is now spreading where this is not an Easton problem. There's an enormous amount of override attempts going on. Many are failing because fundamentally, just as everyone in their personal lives is getting hosed by utility bills and by health insurance bills and car insurance bills and home insurance bills, municipalities and school districts are getting absolutely crushed by these things too. And as we have to balance our budgets, we end up balancing them where we can, which is in the spending we have control over, which is regrettably our operations and staff. The State Municipal Association is giving a lot more coverage to this now. It's getting a lot of attention. It's being coined a perfect storm between the stagnant state aid we receive and the cost pressures on healthcare in particular. So our healthcare right now is forecast to go up another $1 million next year. It's not a sentence I enjoy saying. It will be the third year approximately of $1 million increases to this budget. Health insurance, so that's the employer share for town and school employees and retirees. For frame of reference, this was actually an area we managed the costs in very well. Joining the GIC for many years, growth was sustainable between 2% and 4%. And in the past 2, now looking like 3 years, we've been near or above double-digit % increases. To understand the scale of that impact, if you are having another $1.1 million increase, the entire forecasted increase to the general fund revenue next year is $870,000. If you look at the total health insurance budget of $12.4 million, the whole police department is $5.4 million. All of Health and Community Services, which is Veteran Services, the Board of Health, Council on Aging Services, Recreation, is $1 million. So our health insurance budget right now costs 12 years worth of Frothingham Hall and the health department, to give you a sense of scale. So when that's going up 10% a year, you're not going to be able to keep making things work. So accordingly, the town and school leadership are going to have to continue to prioritize reforms in this area, including reducing potentially the percentage of premiums paid by the town as the employer. Most are currently 75 employer, 25% employee. Many communities are in this area. Some are at 70-30. You can go to 50-50. This is obviously not a magic pill, as reducing that employer share requires consent from bargaining units, and it necessarily reduces the competitiveness of your compensation when we're all talking about openly that across the town and schools, we already have people who are being asked to do a lot with fewer colleagues to help them do that work. Our town and school unions should be recognized and commended for their thoughtful and collaborative approach in this area so far, like over this summer, reaching an agreement for all of our employees to begin contributions into the OPEB healthcare trust. I didn't want that to go unsaid. Other insurances, we've done a good job renegotiating that to keep those costs low. It looks modest at this point. Regional schools, we don't have the enrollment data yet. We're cautiously optimistic that next year will be a bit of a reprieve based on enrollment trends. We'll get that soon, but this is an area that's grown by 40% in 2 years and has been a major pain point. Fixed costs, so non-exempt debt, that's principal and interest payments for capital bonds funded within the general budget and tax levy. This is modest and manageable. It's forecast to increase only by $82,000 next year to $2.9 million. Exempt debt service, that's payments for bonds exempt from the levy that voters have approved, like Blanche James, police, fire, and public works projects. That's going to increase by about $2 million next year, but will have no impact on the operating deficit, as each dollar of that increase is offset by a matching dollar of exempt revenue. We anticipate fiscal 27 will be the last significant year of new bonding for our exempt debt projects. I want to quickly note on that front, thankfully, just as Easton significantly overperformed on the Blanche James project, bringing the project in $13 million under the voter-approved budget, and therefore cutting the tax impact from $433 a year to only $285 a year. Our municipal facilities project, as we heard tonight, is trending very favorably. It's currently $9 million under budget, and the median homeowner's tax impact through the current year is about 53% what they voted to approve it costing, right? So when this was approved in 2023, we had forecast to voters by this fiscal year they'd be paying $625 additional tax dollars for this, and right now it's closer to $331. Substantial projects as these were, they were very wise investments by the voters of Easton. Compared to new school municipal construction that's seeking approval today, their facility is now going for over $500 million. And you're seeing now per square foot construction costs of $1,000, $1,100. Blanche James was below $500. That school, if we try to do these projects today, we'd be spending an additional $120 plus million. So these were very sound choices by the voters, and I appreciate them doing so. There's a revenue summary. So your net taxation, you're looking at $83 million, just shy of 6%. But when you break that out, your non-exempt tax growth is about $2.6 million. State aid, we're currently carrying at 2.8. That's a placeholder that assumes $100 per student minimum aid. Statutorily, that could drop to $30. Last year, it was funded at $150. When the governor's budget comes out later this month, we'll know a lot more. Hopefully, it's funding that more generously. The Mass Municipal Association is advocating for a substantial double-digit percentage increase to unrestricted government aid because that is currently funded less. I think just this year it passed 2008 levels in nominal dollars, and it's been left in the dust when accounting for inflation. Local receipts include things like meals taxes, permits, also ambulance receipts, which is where you see that large hit, because we will no longer be collecting ambulance revenue in fiscal 27. And then other financing and reserve sources where you see another very large hit on revenue. This is where reserve funds that are put one time as they are, they're shown on our balance sheet. We used more than $3.2 million in one-time reserves to soften the descent off of the fiscal cliff in 26. As we were all crystal clear about throughout that process, that was not a recurring funding strategy. And that is why this budget proposes not leaning into those. For the sake of time, I'm going to kind of rush through this because I've talked about this already. New growth. New growth is any new taxable property that's constructed in Easton. Our new growth has done very well the past 2 years. It has meaningfully reduced the total deficit. The past 3 years have been the best 3 years of commercial, industrial, and personal property growth on record. Fiscal 25 and 26 were the highest dollar amounts of new growth we've ever had at 1.5 and 1.1 million. And nearly half of the growth during that time came from commercial, industrial, and personal property, which is really important when you realize that roughly 88% of all of our property is residential. And this is what folks have said they have wanted for a long time, and it reflects conscious, deliberate policy decision by the town and support of voters to build a lot more infrastructure so that this type of building could be possible. Now, why that matters is had new growth this year and last year been closer to the annual average, about 800,000, the deficit would be 1.1 million bigger right now. Not only right now, every year forever, right? Because that new growth permanently adds to your levy. So we wouldn't be talking about a $400,000 and change deficit. We'd be talking about a $1.6 million right? And when you think about the chief asking for 5 officers, I mean, that's more, well more than the price of that. That's the price of running health and community services for a year. So you could see here the significant progress that we have made here. Regrettably, when your healthcare is going up $1 million a year, it really dulls the impact and benefit of that. But nonetheless, it's critically important. I've already touched on state aid. We're relying on estimates at this time. We will update this when we get it at the end of the month. You've seen this graph before, but for anyone watching the replay, this is that red line is where state aid would be had it kept up with inflation, which would be about $4 million more per year right now. We'd be having a much easier budget discussion. So what it looks like in real terms to our school system, we are minimum aid, which means we are entitled, no matter how much the state education spending is increasing, Easton public schools are entitled to the minimum by law, unless the legislature appropriates more. So what that has translated to in 15 years is that we have a school system that once had 31 cents of every dollar funded by the state. Now it's down to 22 cents, and it's going to probably continue to drop. And your choice is there as a community are to fill that with local revenue or cut. And that is a huge contributor to the tight budgets the schools have faced and therefore the town. Local receipts, already touched on. Local receipts have grown very healthily, but it's a smaller portion of our revenue pie, so to speak. You're looking at about 7% of your total revenue. So even if this is growing 5, 6, 7, 8%, it can't offset state aid being underfunded. We are going to continually look at these as year-to-date actual collections come in, and we'll update it when we can. But this is an area where we've pushed those estimates, and you don't want to be overly excitable in those estimates, especially in a year that's going to be very, very different for us, losing that ambulance revenue, because none of you want to find yourselves in the fall town meeting adjusting for being under. Talked about reserves a bit already. 3.2 million plus was used in the current year. That obviously cannot continue. The preliminary budget does not propose the use of reserves. The question you will be asked throughout this process is, well, why not? Why don't you start building back some of those cuts? And as we touched on earlier, and I can't say it enough with my very limited time left, is that we cannot, as a community, it's not a function of myself, the superintendent, school committee, the select board not valuing these positions. It's not a function of us not believing the police department needs more staff. It's the reality that if you use those one-time dollars to start building back those recurring costs, you're guaranteed, it's not the right thing. It's one thing to use money you intentionally save to buy yourself time and slow the descent in a hard year. It's an entirely different proposition operationally and morally to use that money to artificially and deliberately build a cliff for yourself, right? If you're using it to bring stuff back. Only sustainable recurring revenue like an override can do that in the short term. So all told, the deficit rests at $430,000. It's gonna be tempting to just kind of shuffle the reserves in there and call it a day. That's not a structural fix. It's not going to be my call. That's going to be a decision collectively for the town, the schools, and the leadership, and hopefully voters in April. But that won't fix the long-term challenges we face. Just those 3 items of the state budget, the GIC, and regional school assessments can have a 6-figure impact to the good or ill when they come clear in the next few weeks. And so as much as I would have really loved to say, hey, your budget's balanced 6 months in advance and I'm out of here, would have been kind of artificial to do so, but I got you as close as I could. Next year offers, at baseline, an opportunity to realign our budget. The services are in the baseline budget are not getting brought back, but at least it's bringing us structurally closer to a balance where our programs really reflect the revenue that's available from this community. I don't want it to not be pointed out that progress is not an accounting correction. That progress is that there's 70 fewer, approximately, positions between the town and schools right now, nearly 10% of our workforce. And so for some, they may say that's okay, but if your concern was maintaining services, you can't, even if a budget is structurally closer to balance and it's been a very long time, because that deficit is, frankly, the smallest that we've had in a very long time, you can't construe that as everything's fixed from a programmatic standpoint. That said, it presents a real opportunity for the select board and the school committee and the finance committee and our voters that having that smaller deficit means that the override need, all things equal, isn't as great as last year. You're in a fundamentally different decision-making process here, where we've been very open, whether it was a tier or a menu, that there are inherent defects to that approach. Because if you did a $1 million or $2 million public safety override on a menu, but you had a $3 million structural gap in your budget, you know, it's all bottom line budget at the end of the day. You're going to hire those folks. You have a deficit you know is coming. But where you're 6 figures out from a structural balance, anemic as a programming level may be, it puts you in a better position as elected officials to make those choices for the voters. I hope you feel the same way. I think this leaves you with a responsible path forward. I'm going to ask Assistant Town Administrator Dugan just to quickly touch on, you have a very tight calendar in front of you, and then I promise I am done talking about the budget forever, outside of your questions.
Thank you, Connor. As Connor mentioned, we have a number of very pressing things that will happen. Not listed on this timeline is also the town administrator search happening simultaneously with this. So I'll start with late January, early February. We're going to need to work with Chair Stacy of the Budget Subcommittee to put together a meeting of the Budget Subcommittee to discuss what override type they will be recommending to the Select Board. In that meeting, we're going to go over that survey that I had mentioned to you last month that we put out to the public that received over 1,000 responses on type of override, menu versus tier, what types of services they value. Also coupled with the feedback that we've gotten via email over the past couple of months to the budget email, as well as the feedback from the 2 public forums. And those together will help the committee be able to make a recommendation to the Select Board. And then in February, the Select Board is going to start that discussion about considering override budget requests. Likely at your February 9th meeting, the board will consider and discuss what that budget request would look like. And then that would just be based off of the recommendation from the Budget Subcommittee. Late February, early March, once a recommendation has been made and submitted to you all, the board will need to specify and vote on that ballot question, on those ballot questions and amounts to meet that 35-day requirement to submit to the town clerk's office, likely at your February 23rd or March 9th meeting. The drop dead deadline for the 35 days would be March 24th, but given the capacity constraints of our office in the coming months, the buffer time will be very helpful to make sure that we can line everything up nicely. Early to mid-March, at the board's December 3rd meeting, you adopted a provision of state law to send what is commonly known as the municipal red book to voters in town. The red book, for those that weren't listening to that meeting, provides a summary of each ballot question before voters, as well as arguments for and against. And early to mid-March would be spent coordinating with town council, who will be supporting us a lot through this process, as well as the town clerk, to help write a fair and concise summary of each question, as well as soliciting arguments for and against to those ballot committees if they exist. And if not, then town council would support us in writing the for or against arguments so that it remained neutral. As required by the statute, town council will need to submit that summary and arguments to the select board for mailing to voter households at least 20 days prior to the election. Even if we went with the March 9th meeting to finalize the ballot questions and amounts, we'd still plan to send the final version of the red book to the printer before April 8th, likely the week prior, because there's at least a give or take about a 2-week lead time to make sure that it meets our next milestone, which is April 21st, which is by statute, voters must be mailed that red book at least 7 days prior to the election, which is why we'll need that additional lead time to make sure that it gets in their mailboxes in time. And then that takes us to April 28th, the annual town election. Polls will be open 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. on Tuesday, April 28th. So in addition to the override, any override questions that the select board chooses to have on the ballot, voters will also be voting for candidates for elected office at the same time. And as a reminder, voters will also have the option to vote by mail for that. And finally, we'll present the final budget based on the outcome of the election. So we'll either have the non-override budget, of which you're seeing in preliminary form tonight, or we'll incorporate any amount that's approved at the ballot box.
Thank you, Sean. So that's it. That's preliminary budget. I'm happy to take questions. Mark, I believe you have to leave, so I apologize. I did not know. I would have been faster.
It's totally fine. You still have a quorum. I mean, there's just so much to digest. This, watching this, we kind of know all of this material for the most part, and
It's going to be a busy stretch, and we have to go through the exercise to present options to people, and again, they will have another shot to see what type of community they want to live in.
I'm very proud. Going back to June, when we talked about trying to meet this timeline and get this amount of information as accurate as we could, given the shrunken timeline and the fact that it's only the second week in January right now. So thank you for the work in getting to this point to really educate voters. This is incredible. And now we just need people to consume it, and that's why we did it at this pace, was so that we could give people more runway before the votes, before town meeting. So that for me is like, it's huge that we're here, we're talking about these numbers, at least in the capacity that we have them and can digest and understand. And I, along with the schools, I think great that the work was done on that side too, to be able to true up that budget just a little bit more and get a really good picture for everyone, so that we do see what this baseline looks like, what it looks like to live without the services that we're going to continue to live without if we don't fix this. This is incredible. This is for the community. I hope when people do start going out and listening, or we tell them to go back and listen to this meeting, they're going to realize all this work is laid out and done and now available for them to consume. So thank you to everybody that's been working on this. And Connor, I'm going to say this. You had an opportunity to leave us much sooner than you've chosen to. And you said you were going to stay on until the end of January. And a big reason for this was you wanted to be able to bring this book of work to this point. And that is unbelievable, because you could have left a long time ago. And you could have just said, no, that to me is unbelievable. You have a great position waiting for you, and well, we've all gotten past being mad at Westwood.
Not all.
Stop littering in Westwood. I actually was doing that as a joke. Anyway, the bottom line is this, though. We're excited for you for that next chapter. You're excited for the next chapter, but you weren't going to leave any one of us before you finished this, which was so important. We needed you, and you came to us and said you weren't going to leave. We didn't beg you to stay. In fact, none of us even asked. You just said, I can't leave until this work is done. So if there's any testament to you for this evening, in this farewell tour, and this final proclamation as we say goodbye, thank you for doing what you said you would do from the day you said you would do it.
Thank you, Jamie.
Wow. That was really great. All right. Well, I don't think anyone could beat that. So
Absolutely not.
let's go wrap up some of these last contract things. Next, we have contract award IT 2026-01, Wally Computer Associates. This is the cyclical replacement of computers that we do every year. The contract is for the annual replacement of computers that are 4 to 5 years old. 30 computers in all will be replaced, 5 in the town offices, 11 in the police department, 5 in the fire department, and 9 in the Department of Public Works. The contract value is $36,540, and the contract and the memo with more details are in our packet, and it's recommended for approval. Does anyone have any questions on that?
No.
Nope. Can I get a motion?
Approve contract award IT 2026-01 at Wally Computer Associates, cyclical replacement of computers in the amount of $36,540.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
RG, yes.
All right, item 13, contract award EFD 2026-01, Town and Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus Ladder Truck Trade. This contract is for a 2003 Pierce ladder truck, which is known as a Quint, from Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus to support the new private ambulance response model. This truck will be completely paid for by trading in the surplus 2014 E1 fire engine, ensuring no additional cost to the town, and it will not increase the fleet size given the trade. A new Quint would take 18 to 24 months to arrive. So this truck will be used as a frontline unit for 2 years and later as a backup. This truck has been inspected by Chief Alexander and EFD mechanic Tyler Cobb and is deemed to be in good condition. And we do have a memo from Fire Chief Alexander and a contract with Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus for more details. And this is recommended for approval. Anyone have any comments or questions on this?
Just thank you to the fire chief, whether he's coming up or not. I'm not saying it needs to be, just that, Chief, this is another example of you, again, going back to what you said needed to be done so that we could respond effectively to situations given our manning, our current manning, and you made it happen without even having to come, for any additional budget changes. So, thank you.
Just want to point out for anyone who's here and listening at home, this is one of 2 trades, is that correct? Moving to the Quints. And so we're not trading the new ladder truck for a 2003. This is an older engine.
Correct.
That's not the front line right now for an older Quint while those bigger, more complicated transactions are worked out.
Okay.
Great.
Can I get a motion?
I move to approve contract award EFD 2026-01 Town and Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus ladder truck trade.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Barger, yes.
Terrific. Item 14, discussion and vote for fuel storage fee schedule. We have an attached memo from the fire chief recommending an increase to fuel storage fees. These fees haven't been altered since 2005. The chief recommends a fee increase of 20% with an additional 2% increase each subsequent year. The town clerk reports that their office issues renewal registrations for 13 underground fuel storage facilities, totaling approximately $4,000 each year. And it is recommended that the fuel storage fee increase be enacted, recommended by Chief Alexander. Any questions, comments?
It's one of the few fees we haven't touched in the past year and a half, so we had asked the chief to put this forward.
All right, can I get a motion?
I move to approve the fuel storage fee schedule as recommended by Chief Alexander.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Barger, yes.
Next, the vote for the Environmental Stewardship Committee charge modification. We have a letter from Christina Refford, Chair of the Environmental Stewardship Committee, requesting a committee charge change to allow more members. Also attached is a red line version of the current charge, highlighting the changes that the committee wants to make. Jamie is the Select Board rep to the Environmental Stewardship Committee, and he can answer any questions that we have, but essentially, they want to put a student on there, which is a really great idea, and then round it out to an odd number by adding another member as well. Is that?
That's right, and the amount of work has increased significantly, and that team has done an amazing job, putting out an amazing tool for the community in the form of a resource guide for sustainability, and they keep adding to it. It's a living document, so it keeps changing. So they brought on the amount of work themselves because of how good they are, and every member on that team is now to the point where they're exceeding their own capacity because, like us, they all have full-time jobs, and they're giving a lot. And so this is not asking a lot, which is unpaid volunteer positions, and this will help them dramatically. So thank you.
Excellent. I hope that's not what the people here that were earlier that left were waiting for.
Don't know.
So, Craig, do you want to make a motion?
So I move to recommend the Environmental Stewardship Committee charge modification as detailed by Jamie Stebbins and the memo from the chair.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Barger, yes.
Terrific. Item 16 is for us to vote to accept a gift from Stonehill College. Stonehill has presented the Town of Easton with their annual gift of $40,000. A letter of thanks to Stonehill College has been prepared for the board's signature. In accordance with practice, Connor is recommending that $20,000 of the gift be allocated as follows: Easton Public Schools $8,000, Ames Free Library $5,000, Health and Community Services $7,000, and the remaining $20,000 will be determined later in the year. So it's recommended that we vote to approve this gift in the amount specified above. Any comments, questions? All right, Craig.
I move to accept the gift from Stonehill College in the amount of $40,000.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb. Roll call vote.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes?
Bodger, yes.
Okay, next, annual personnel plan update. As required each year by the town charter, the town's personnel plan has been updated. The board is not required to take any action on the plan, which becomes effective 30 days after it's been submitted to the board. The plan is a comprehensive roster of all positions, not including school or board/committees necessary for the operation of our municipal government. The document was sent to us before the holidays for our review. Connor credits Human Resources Director Mary Southworth for the maintenance of this plan each year. So this is pretty much a housekeeping update that we get every year. Any comments or questions on this? Other than appreciation for the hard work getting it done?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you to Mary.
All right, do you want to, we don't have to vote for this, that was informational. Next is the acceptance of minutes dated December 10th, 2025, December 15th, 2025, and January 5th, 2026.
So moved, Bodger.
Second.
That's Bodger and Lamb.
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes.
Bodger, yes.
All right, town administrator notes.
Just thank you. Thanks to the board, thanks to the staff, and the community. It's been an incredible journey, and I will always remember it and always appreciate it. So, thank you.
And before we do the history of Connor's time here, anybody have anything else they want to add? All right, go ahead, Sean.
All right.
Oh, boy.
I'm excited.
It's the most boring PowerPoint ever. I have no pictures in it because it.
There's no pictures?
There's one.
No, there's one picture. It's all numbers. No, nothing. Bare bones.
It's him playing guitar.
Can we hum maybe? Maybe we'll hum a little tune. Why don't we?
Did you guys have something to do with this, or is that why you're here?
No,
Yeah.
we're just excited like we are.
Last meeting, we were There we go.
There we go. So Connor Reed Celebrating Community Impact 2012 to 2026. This was Connor in front of the legislature, probably for PFAS mitigation. And looks like he's making a really strong point to them. So I went through and just by category, summarized it. It's long, and I'm just going to hit the high points. We can look at it later, but the stabilization fund growth, since 2017, we've more than quadrupled our stabilization fund from 1.7 million to 7.3 million, the highest balance in the town's history, and doubled the reserve ratio to 10%, the strongest in 20 years. We've had to dip into that. Some of these numbers, most of them are from fiscal 25, because that was what I had to work with when I put this together. But we know that we have the lean operations and grant performance. I can't stress this enough, how lucky we are that we have strong grant writers on our staff that have secured over $60 million in state and federal infrastructure funds and facility grants. We won an additional $6.1 million in planning and local infrastructure grants. For every dollar invested in planning, Easton has leveraged $3.40 in external funding. Those are great numbers. New growth and mitigation success. Completion of 3 sewer districts and mitigation funds negotiated with large developments helped drive the fiscal year 25 new growth above 1.5 million, the strongest on record. Without those mitigation funds, we would not have a new school right now. Some of that money was used for a feasibility study that got us into the MSBA program. So all of this stuff is connected and works together. That was a really, really stressful and strategic time, and Connor led us through that and really negotiated like a great opportunity for us there, and even at that had the vision for what that looked like when it got laid out. Award-winning budget presentation. We've earned the Government Finance Officers Association Budget Award for transparent budget book produced each year. I hope people are looking at that when they're asking questions about what are we doing with the money, because it details it down to the penny in every single department on the town side and the schools as well. Strong credit rating. Maintained a high Moody's bond rating of AA3, allowing us the best interest in a long-term debt financing. Taxpayer relief, implemented split tax rate for the residents and businesses, commercial industrial property to shift the tax burden more equitably while maintaining the lowest regional CIP tax rates to attract new business. In 2025, average single-family tax bill as a share of per capita income fell to 13.55%, the lowest since 2007. It feels like our taxes are high because our property values are high, and I know that people don't love that explanation, but when you compare it to other towns around us and throughout the state, we are still coming in with a pretty strong, healthy tax bill, conservative. In fiscal 25, the average tax bill rank improved from 65th in 2021 to 79th among 351 communities, also the best since 2006, and continued investment in tax relief programs for seniors, veterans, and socioeconomically vulnerable residents. These are some of the community things that Connor has really prioritized and worked very hard on behind the scenes. They don't always get the most attention, but everything that we do, all the conversations that we have are geared towards how does this impact the community? How does this impact our vulnerable residents? Can they withstand this? What can we do to help? And really has put a lot of great programs along with the select board on there. Infrastructure, facilities, and public works implemented community-wide facilities repair and replacement for 95% of municipal buildings and a third of school facilities. These changes that we're working on right now that Connor has led, along with our department heads and the select board and the community, have put our town in such a great position for years to come by getting these things, stop wasting money on old buildings that we're not getting any return on our money that way. The vision on this, it was something that started, before Connor started. He carried it through. A lot of times during those transition changes, you lose things. Restored and preserved Wayside, the town hall, leveraging CPA grants and Green Communities energy efficiency programs for heat pumps and electric vehicle charging. Public safety and works facilities. The bids awarded are $9 million under the estimate for construction, with only 2% contingency used with the project at 40% complete. PFAS water treatment facilities awarded under budget with contaminants reduced to undetectable levels and successfully led litigation against chemical manufacturers. I'll add that he was on the PFAS task force as the only municipal rep and really led the charge for that, one of the smartest people in the state on PFAS. The Blanche Elementary School delivered $13 million under budget, reducing the annual tax impact from $435 a year to $285 per household. Amazing, amazing numbers. Infrastructure repair and public works, facilities and public works. Washington Street and Elm, we've been waiting forever for that. It's finally here. MassDOT signalization and intersection improvements completed after are being completed after a decade of planning. Roadway reconstruction, Foundry Street and Depot Street, part of a $20 million in TIP projects to update roads and multimodal transit. Move the Civil War Monument to reconstruct and signalize one of the most congested and accident-prone intersections. That was also part of the $20 million TIP project. That is, if you take your kid to drive in their first driving experience and went around that rotary, you took your life in your hands and really white-knuckled it through there. So that's a major improvement. Sewer district construction, Queesit and Foundry Street managed $20 million wastewater expansion. Those feel like they're so far in the distance now. They were so big when they happened. The transformational sewer agreement, planning and economic development, executed a landmark intermunicipal agreement with the city of Brockton, connecting to the Easton Industrial Park to regional sewer, unlocking decades of economic development potential. The downtown and corridor revitalization, down in the Five Corners, implementing the DIF was very successful, attracted new businesses, All Town Fresh, Starbucks, Aroma Joe's, iGolf, Taco Bell, of course, and Chipotle. The growth along the Queesit corridor in Southeastern included Collins Surgical, LTP Pickleball, Planet Fitness, and more. Downtown revitalization with new businesses such as Nico's, Bloom Aesthetics, Stash Jewelry, Hello Pearl, Sweet Treats, and Pops Galore. The downtown is really healthy right now. We still have some work to go. Planning for Success, community-driven initiatives. These were all, the public input on our Easton Envision 2025 master plan update, surplus properties report, climate action plan, Swifts Park. These are all things that the community asked for, and they worked on together to get these plans activated and in motion. That sets us up for grants in the future to really start to facilitate some of the things that we've asked for in there. Public health, safety, and community awareness, restructured health and community services to provide better services for seniors, vulnerable residents, and veteran services, continued funding for the Tax Aid Committee and SERVs, distributed over $400,000 in ARPA financial assistance to seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities and families, added a mental health clinician embedded with police and fire departments. That should have a gold star next to it just on its own. That has been a game changer for our community. And for our forward-facing services. The mobile park redevelopment, after 15 years of challenges, court-appointed receivership led to a 2025 purchase by Crown Communities, initiating immediate infrastructure improvements. What a huge win that was. And we had to be very patient through that as well. Quality of life, community engagement, and inclusivity supported the tricentennial celebration and continued excellence of the Shoveltown Cultural District. Statewide recognition for Easton's Human and Community Services Department, receiving the 2025 MERPA Regional Community Impact Award for advancing inclusion for residents with disabilities, and launching the Citizens Academy to foster civic participation. Government efficiency and organizational leadership, regionalization success with SEMREC. Everybody knows that has been an amazing game changer for us. And collective bargaining, prioritizing communication and mutual respect for working with unions to meet goals and work towards contracts that expressed appreciation and value for staff while remaining within the budget. That relationship is not always, smooth, and I think that everything I've heard, I know that Connor speaks so highly of the staff and the unions, and I feel that the unions have mutual respect for him as well. Energy savings, solar on the high school and the middle school rooftops, generating thousands in savings. Energy efficiency in all new buildings, including geothermal, heat pumps, new windows, thermal and moisture protection in Town Hall. Signed a 3-year natural gas contract in 2025 at $8.80, generating approximately $45,000 in annual savings. Obviously, those savings have gone down more so as the costs have gone up, but the electricity aggregation program has saved $13 million in electricity supply costs through calendar year 24. Average household savings of $1,870 since 2020, exceeding the annual tax cost of the Blanche Ames School. So the money that we saved on electricity was a wash. We got a brand new school with that savings. Information technology, upgraded technology and enhanced cybersecurity across all departments and users, strengthening resilience against growing digital threats, moved all systems to Office 365 to optimize efficiencies and security, improved and maintained GIS software, and improved and expanded online permitting across departments. Regional leadership. Connor's been on the SEMREC Board of Directors 2017 to the present, just stepped down, and they're sad about that, I am sure. The Massachusetts PFAS Interagency Task Force, Mass Municipal Association Fiscal Policy Committee, Mass Municipal Managers Association of Committees, Strategic Plan Future Managers, DEI Chiefs and Managers Committees, International City and County Management Association as a welcome ambassador. And then awards and recognitions, the Distinguished Budget Award that we talked about, Mass Public Official of the Year through the American Public Works Association of New England in 2024, Top Influencer in Local Government, Engaging Local Government Leaders 2024, AARPH Friendly Community Designation 2022, ICMA Program Excellence Award for Public Safety and Health, and SEMREC Regionalization in 911 2022, Housing Choice Community Designation from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts 2020 to 2025, Distinguished Alumni Award, UMass Dartmouth Political Science in 2022, and Maya Risk Management Excellence in Community Outreach and Employee Safety for COVID-19 in 2020. That's quite a really impressive list there. And that's the end. So
Dottie, nice
There's no
job.
more?
You did a nice job.
I talk
Dottie.
fast.
Great.
Yeah, that
That's-
was
that-
really nice job, Dottie.
Talk about
So
feeling
did you,
proud.
Connor. You did a good job too.
I was somewhat involved in, not in that. To be clear, I didn't.
If
That'd
that
be
doesn't make you proud to
self-aggrandizing.
be part of this community, though.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
that's the whole body of work. Dottie, thanks for putting that together. That really made my night.
Yeah.
It's been a very, very good run.
That was awesome.
We all have a lot to be proud of. I think sometimes it feels a little overshadowed by the hard budget situation we've been in for the past 18 months, but we're not alone in that. That's happening everywhere. It doesn't take away the incredible progress that this community has made that I certainly can't take all the credit for, but obviously would like to think I had some positive influence on. But between that and the budget that I'm going to leave you with, this community has a very good shot to be in a really solid place this summer and get back up on the horse and be proud, because you should be.
And I agree with you. I think you are leaving us in great shape, given the headwinds we've faced. We couldn't be going into them in stepping off in better shape than we are right now.
Well, we appreciate you, and I hope you feel valued, and I hope that that you feel good about leaving, and we're excited for you. And if they don't treat you right, you can come back.
So we're telling this next town administrator that it's interim.
Hopefully he's not, or she's not watching this.
No.
We do have one comment that I'll read just because we never get comments. But Connor, on behalf of the school committee, we want to thank you for your service to the town and district. You have been a true friend to the school community, and we appreciate your support. Your impact on our ability to build a beautiful new school is undeniable, and we will miss you very much. Signed, Jackie Weissman, 19 Armour Lane, Chair of the Easton School Committee.
Oh, that's nice.
Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
Miss working with you as well, Jackie, and the whole school committee and school community.
Yeah. So remember, come visit Connor on the 20th to say goodbye. And also, I don't want to forget, we have an executive session tonight under, it's not over yet, guys. We have an executive session under Purpose 3 of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. And we will enter into executive session, not to return to open session. So can I get a motion, a second, and a roll call vote?
So moved, Barger.
Second.
Bodger and Lamb?
Stacy, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Full Janetti, yes. All right, thank you, everybody, and thank you, ECAT. Have a good night.